Good evening, everybody. This is Team MBS Media's Draft Central, and tonight there's only three of us because Mr. Jeff Barnes is busy tonight. So it's going to be the three of us here. We're going to basically cover the 2022 NFL Draft from the Arizona Cardinals all the way down to the Washington Commanders. We also have a guest tonight who was also on our program the other week. Christophe is going to be back.
Awesome.
Because Christophe is going to become a Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going to give him a little history on the city and all that fun sort of stuff, and we'll see how he
what
feels.
to avoid.
Yeah.
Well,
all you like just
it's all on me because he's coming up here to Canada.
Weather report.
Yeah, exactly. So after the draft was over with on Saturday, I ended up having a celebratory day on Sunday because my Liverpool Reds won the English Premier League for the 20th time. It was a beautiful thing to see. Great to see those fans because, of course, when they last won it in 2020, they were all locked up with COVID, so there was no fans in the stands when the Liverpool Reds won the Premier League. So that was a beautiful thing to see. What have you guys been up to the rest of this week?
I've been knocking out a bunch of videos about the position groups for the draft class for Zenny 62 Media. I did a show earlier today with my friend Kari Thompson. Shout out to Kari, who I might be able to slowly but surely seduce into doing some stuff with us here at Team MBS. And I've got something I'm going to be doing soon with our friend Lamar Horton of the Spirit of Detroit podcast, and working on 2026. Started watching, some prospects for the next draft.
Yeah. What have you been doing, Randall?
Oh man, hung out with the family on Saturday and Sunday. I wrote some articles for Team MBS about the Bills and the draft, writing some more up, and basically just tried to convince most of Bills Mafia that the draft for us was good and not bad, while everybody decided to have pessimism, and it drove me a little nuts. So I was erring on the side all weekend of everybody needs to calm down.
Yeah. My draft worked out very well for the Cowboys because my 15th player on my board was taken in the third round. My 19th player was taken in the second round, and my 28th player on my board was taken 12th. So I had a very good weekend as far as the draft went with the Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
I have avoided commenting too much about it.
I couldn't help myself.
Well, no, it draws ire of too many people and all that fun sort of stuff. Being in Cowboys Nation, it's although I must admit, everybody seems to be very pleased that Will McClay took over the draft room again. Thank you. No more Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy with these guys that they all wanted to be players. And yeah, it was a very good draft for the Cowboys. So in terms of Saturday Night, Bill.
Yes.
Do you have a couple of people lined up for us?
I have several.
Yeah.
So the aforementioned Lamar, who does the Spirit of Detroit podcast, might well be available. I was just literally on the phone right before the show talking to Donovan. He is, like many of us, sort of making up for lost time with his lovely significant other. But their date is a beach date on Saturday, so he should be back available. Maybe he might be a few minutes late coming in, but he should be available. My friend Steve Morton, who is a Titans guy, says he might be available. He's going to confirm. He has to talk to management in his household. Shout out to Charlene. And
that's the boss.
But if he's able to get a confirmation that he'll be available for management. And then there was one other person. Mark. And I'll know for sure about my friend Mark Chisholm, who's a Tampa Bay guy, pretty soon as well.
Yeah, because Saturday night the final word comes back, and that's why I asked Bill who's going to be coming on with us, because we're going to discuss the 2025 draft a little bit further with these folks. There will be no grades given out. We don't do grades when the players are taken like this. Like everybody wants to clickbait and this is an A plus draft and hello, none of these kids have ever played a down in the NFL. You don't give out grades until they've been there for 3 years. And that's why we were doing the 2022, hard to say, NFL draft grades tonight because they have now been around for 3 years. So that's definitely something that we don't do around here anyway at Draft Central is give out grades like everybody else does immediately. If anybody is wondering as to why I don't like grading players immediately either, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to give a grade to a player just because he was picked by a team. Now, we've also been hearing all kinds of word and rumors about why Shedeur Sanders wasn't picked until the 5th round, and we discussed that on the weekend. Boomer Esiason was on with Mike Florio and said that there was teams whose owners made them take him off their boards and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? Shedeur Sanders is a Cleveland Brown. He was a 144th pick overall. Let the man go to work, do his thing. That's my bottom line with Shedeur Sanders. Where do you guys feel about this whole Shedeur Sanders thing?
Oh, boy. So I've been asked about this by a lot of people. I've been on doing like guest hits on a bunch of other people's pods and shows and spaces. And it's a combination of things, like everything in life. He did not spot one of the planted errors that one of the teams had put in like little install thing that they were going to quiz him on in the interview.
Yep.
And, there were some other things that had sort of rankled people. But I think most of it came down to the fact that he is a somewhat slight-framed touch and anticipation thrower whose arm is maybe dead on to slightly below average, who didn't have any one special enough quality that it was going to wipe away people's misgivings, somewhat overblown misgivings about other stuff, quite frankly. And in the NIL age, you're going to have to get used to this. Guys are going to drive up to their interviews in very nice cars, have expensive watches. Now, they may not all have a mixtape and a clothing brand and everything that Shedeur has, but an increasing number of these guys are going to be established brands and celebrities and whatever else. And if this bothers you as a GM, you may want to consider another line of work. Because this is not, he may have been the first you've encountered like this, but he will not be the last. And my understanding is that he and Brian Daboll had words or whatever during the interview with the Giants. Not angry, but things got maybe a little bit, jousty is what I'm hearing. There was a little bit of challenging tone to some of the things that went on. I mean, obviously I wasn't there. Everything's hearsay when it comes to stuff. But what really sort of rankles me is the anonymous drip, drip, drip that happened in the 3 or so days leading up to the draft, where everybody had something to say. Everybody had to take their cut and take their swing and, get their 2 cents in. Let me just, and I'll finish with this. This is a young man who grew up, right, having people like Michael Irvin and MC Hammer and Emmitt Smith and, Andre Rison. The first pass he ever threw in his life was to Andre Rison. Right, he has had an atypical childhood, so he's not going to be like all the other prospects, right? That's just to be expected, should be to be expected. So if you get your nose out of joint because he's not, oh gee shucks, oh gosh golly, sir, I can't believe this is happening to me. He's thought this would happen to him since he was 5. You know what I mean? Like this is.
Yep.
So. I think there's enough blame to be had for everyone involved. I think Dion can come up and get a slice of his own. Shedeur should get a slice. the NFL GMs who overreacted to certain things. And yes, there are things about Shedor's game that definitely need development. He looks definitely like he could use another 8 to 12 pounds of muscle desperately. And there were definitely times when, I mean, he held the ball, right? I mean, there's no two ways around it. He had a bad offensive line, but he really did hold the ball. He held the ball way too much. There's definitely things that he can work on. He is not an elite prospect. I mean, that's part of what it came down to. And so when people say things like, oh, is the juice worth the squeeze? He's going to still, I believe, when it's all said and done, be an NFL starting quarterback for several years. You get him at pick 144. That's not a lot of squeeze, and I think you might get a lot of juice out of him.
Yeah. What did you feel, Randall?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill said it very well, and I also agree. I mean, there was a lot of general managers that came out today, and they were asked about the whole entire nil thing because, the report came out where they're adding that third level of do you love football sort of thing. So they want to get the GM's feel. And a lot of GMs, I believe it was the Rams GM that said it and a couple others, were like, we actually are taking it as a positive thing with with college players now having money. They can already kind of figure out how they deal with having money before going to the NFL and receiving that large paycheck. So I really love the GMs talk that way because then they're looking at it as a positive aspect, and that's how you should as a GM. And then when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, I mean, I think he could get in line for that starting position in Cleveland. I think he'll do good. I mean, I do think that the personality things are blown out of control, and they're coming back to reality now that he has been drafted. And I think he'll just get a clean shot in Cleveland and kind of go from there. I think he beats out Dylan Gabriel and things along those lines. So it'll be a fun offseason, and hopefully, they get the hard knocks so that we can watch that unfold for sure.
Well, I don't ever watch Hard Knocks. I'm sorry. I just don't watch it.
I don't either, but I would if it's the Browns this year. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah. Our guest this week is here. Christophe.
How's it going, Bill? How's it going, Randall? How's it going, Greg? How are you guys?
Doing well, Christophe. Yes. Now I see you're wearing the color green today, which is the color of the Edmonton Eskimos. The Edmonton Elks now, but my team. But Christophe, you're going to that blue and gold. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Congratulations!
Yes, I'm going to your homeland, Greg.
Yeah,
be there.
Yes. Now Winnipeg actually is a Cree word that means muddy waters. Just so you know.
Good. That's news to me. I'm excited. I'm excited to learn. It's a great opportunity. I feel like it's something that I'm really excited for, and especially the transition to the Canadian game. I've been catching up, watching some games, watching some film to try and see how it translates. But it's definitely a little bit of a shock coming from American football. But I'm really excited to learn, and I think it's a fantastic place to be. A great opportunity for me in my career at this point.
Absolutely. And, of course, the D linemen are 1 yard off the football.
Right. Yeah. I was messaging with a couple of the guys that I know from the CFL. I was messaging Nathan Bork, who we spoke about last time, as well as Nathan Millette, who is actually at our rivals at the moment. He's playing for the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
We've seen him a couple of times in the Western final, which is exciting. But one of the biggest shocks, at least from an O-line standpoint, is that yard off the ball. It makes it a little bit of a different game for sure.
Yeah, well, Labor Day weekend is the big weekend for Winnipeg and Saskatchewan.
Really?
Oh yeah, and you guys play each other back to back. Edmonton and Calgary does the same thing. It's back to back. Toronto and Hamilton play each other. Montreal and Ottawa. It gets very testy at Labor Day weekend. Is very, very testy.
Well, that's good to know. I'm definitely very excited. It's great. I'm fantastic. It's great. I'm speechless.
Now, how is your older type of music in appreciation?
I think it's quite good. I know for a lot of my career, my dad driving me to practice, he was definitely bumping some.
I'm talking about old music like I listened to when I was a kid. Because Winnipeg was the home of the Guess Who, which was a band that had a very famous song called American Woman.
Yes, I know that song.
All right. And then Bachman Turner Overdrive. was also part of the Guess Who. Bachman left and became BTO.
Right.
And they've got another very famous song as well.
Taking care of business.
You got it. Taking care of business. So you have to learn those two songs off by heart. Do not listen to the Lenny Kravitz version of American. It's good, but it's not the original. The original is definitely the ones you want. And Winnipeg is also home to Clara Hughes, who was a Canadian speed skater at the Olympics and a cyclist. So she won a medal in Atlanta, came back to speed skating at the age of 28, and won a gold medal at the Turin Olympics. So she's very famous. Let's see, what else is really famous in Winnipeg that I remember? It's been a long time since I've gone there. Oh, yes, your mosquito repellent. You better have some. Because those mosquitoes, they're bigger than most. They're meaner than most. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a very scary sight there. Hopefully, when you go up to Winnipeg this year, the forks where the Assiniboine and the Red Rivers meet each other, there's no flooding, because that happens quite often, unfortunately, up there. But yeah, you're going to be in the CFL for the 12-time Grey Cup champion, Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, it's I've been looking a little bit about. I've been doing my research, right, because I'm excited for this opportunity, and I feel like you need to go into any job interview or camp prepared, and at least have some basic understanding of who's coaching you, what they've done in the past, what's their scheme like. And over the past 3 years, they've had a lot of success. They've consistently won like the Western Division, and they've always been up the top. And they've made it to the Grey Cup a couple times, and I believe they won it a couple years back. So just that alone, being able to play for a team with at least that's being consistently good at the moment, is a fantastic thing.
Well, you are going to a team that has been in the Grey Cup for 5 straight years.
Yeah.
They last won it in 2021.
That's right.
They also used to have a guy up here who ended up coming down to the NFL and ruining a season for my Cowboys, named Dieter Brock. Dieter Brock had a cannon of an arm. I mean, a literal cannon. Warren Moon and him, you could hear the balls whistle in the air.
Yeah.
It was just frightening. But I was back up here in Canada, in Edmonton, 1984 for the Grey Cup game, and Winnipeg ended up destroying Hamilton. We had one guy who left to go to the bathroom, and he came back and this game's over.
Oh man.
He was just like, he missed like 3 touchdowns and a field goal for Winnipeg. It was just hilarious. So yeah. There's a Grey Cup memory, and you guys host the Grey Cup this year as well.
Really? That's exciting.
Yeah. So, of course, Jeff isn't here. That little Florida punk. He needs to come up. He needs to come up here to Canada for a Grey Cup game. But he goes, no.
I know. For me, at least when I was trying to pick a college, I wanted to choose a more northern school. I prefer the cold to the heat. I've always lived by the mantra, you can always put on more clothes, but you can't take enough off, especially when you're playing football. So I know the Canadian winter is definitely a little bit different. It'll maybe take some adjusting to, but I'm definitely super excited to play in the cold.
Yeah, just avoid going to Portage in Maine in January. Well, your season ends in November, but I mean, if you stay up there, December and January, Portage in Maine is the coldest place in this country. It is very cold. I went and did that one trip. No, that's enough. Yeah, that's very, very cold. So are they going to put you in as a guard or a center?
Well, actually, speaking with some of the contacts that I do have up there, professional guys, they were saying that especially as an American, you want to be as versatile as possible.
Yep.
So, I'm going in with an open mind, ready to play whatever position they need. I know I was watching a game at one point where their left guard got injured, and then the center moved to left guard, and then through the series he moved to right guard. or
Yep.
right tackle, excuse me. So you just got to be as versatile as possible, and at whatever position they want me to play is where I'm willing to go and willing to perform and do my best at.
Perfect. So one other famous Winnipeg person. Do you know who Anna Paquin is?
I do not know.
Anna Paquin is a very famous actress.
Yes. I've seen it.
Yes, and she was also born in Winnipeg.
Wow.
So there you go. See, all these little nuggets of knowledge
Yeah.
stay up here. It's frightening. It's frightening. So, are you looking? When do you come up? Next month?
Actually, no. I will be up on Cinco de Mayo. I'll be up
Okay.
for this
Yep,
coming Monday.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
quick turnaround for me. I'll drive up to Athens, Ohio, for my graduation to walk through my master's program on Friday morning.
Yeah.
And going back down to fly to Winnipeg and get started with camp and medicals and all that stuff.
Awesome. So, what NFL teams did you end up hearing from?
Yeah, I mean, my agent was talking to a couple of them, and we felt as though, at least at this point, looking at some NFL camps, that it was like a 5% chance. If you look at the statistics of getting through with a camp invite, it's quite low. So we kind of shifted gears a little bit and felt as though it's better to have something a little bit more secure, and that was Winnipeg, especially with how successful they were. I was excited to get interest from them. While the NFL is still something that I'm interested in, it might be a possibility later down the road for me. I feel like it is a great fit at the moment, especially at Winnipeg. I'm excited to go up there and show them what I can do.
Fantastic, gentlemen. Any other questions?
Is anybody traveling with you?
No, it'll actually
spend the
just be
season in
this
Canada.
time. Pardon?
Just you in Canada for the season?
Yeah, well, not this season. Thankfully, my dad says that he has a business meeting. Actually, he just came into the room a couple minutes ago and brought me some Canadian money.
That's right. Now our bills are very different colors. The $100 bill is a brown bill. The $50 bill is a pink bill. The $10 bill is purple, and the $5 bill is blue. Then there's the coins, which are the loonies and the toonies. So $1 and $2 coins. It's great.
Yeah, I have a lot to learn about Canada for sure. Even having Curtis as my roommate, a Canadian, it's definitely going to be an adjustment.
Yeah.
But my dad said that he's excited to come up, hopefully for some games, and he'll be up for some business trips and be able to visit. And, hopefully I'll be able to get some other family out and around for the season.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so I guess my first question will be, I know sometimes even before you physically get there, they'll get a version of a playbook to you, either something you download or upload or whatever it is to your mobile device. Have they exposed you to their offense at all yet?
Yeah, I've definitely had some exposure. They've been very busy over the past couple of days because the NFL draft or the CFL draft literally just happened. I think they finished it up yesterday. So they've been very busy making sure that all of the guys that just got drafted by them have that information. And I've been reached out to by the offensive line coach, Coach Costello. We've been talking about getting on DV Sports to watch some film. I've got access to their Teamworks account where I see a little bit of what camp breakdown is going to be, some of the installs. So I've been exposed a little bit, but not to the extent that I have a playbook yet.
Got it. Okay. My next question will be, obviously, it is because of the number of downs you have to work with, generally speaking, a pass-heavy league. What are some things you're working on to get ready for the CFL's wide-open approach to offensive football?
Yeah, that was something that was definitely a bit of a shock. Watching football games with only 3 downs, and I believe one of those downs has to be passing, if I'm correct. But I've been definitely doing a lot more pass setting, working both right and left as well as center sets. Actually, yesterday and today, I was in the yard with my dad, and he was throwing the tire swing at me, and I was making sure to get my punch timing down, or he's throwing a medicine ball at me, working with that yard difference because the punch timing is different, A big part of my game, at least in college, was getting hands on as soon as possible and just clamping someone down and locking them down. But they have a little bit more of a running start in the CFL, so making sure that I have that timing down with my hand-eye coordination in the punch is something that's going to be definitely important, I feel like, for an offensive lineman.
Got it. Makes sense.
Absolutely. Do you know a lady named Chantel Kreviazuk?
Greg, I'm not very good with names, so
no. She's also a musician from Winnipeg as well.
So
are you
everyone
a fan of
Winnipeg, you're going to hear about them tonight, Christophe.
Yeah. I think hopefully at the first meeting they'll ask some Winnipeg trivia, and I'll have Greg.
That's right. You just get my phone number, and I'll keep you in good line there.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go up on Monday. That's great. The CFL, of course, has an 18-game season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the extra game that you don't have to worry about in the NFL. But the drawback to the Labor Day weekend is that you play each other on the Monday, and then you play each other Friday night.
It's definitely a quick turnaround.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround, and they're nasty. They're nasty. Although you guys actually only play on the Sunday. Sorry, you guys play on the Sunday.
That's
so
good.
your turnaround's not as quick as the Edmonton Calgary one is, or Toronto and Hamilton.
Yeah, thankfully I feel like that the MAC has prepared me a little bit for that with our MACtion games playing on a Wednesday. Yes, it's still like 7 days, but the transition of going from a Saturday game to a Wednesday game is it definitely takes you out of whack a little bit. So hopefully that'll translate.
Yeah, and Thursday night football is a big thing here as well.
Right.
Friday nights. And then once Labor Day weekend comes, then you go to the weekend games. You're all weekend games at that point. So that's a bit of a difference. But it'll be interesting. I got to see when the Blue Bombers come to Calgary because
if I am able to get tickets, you have one with your name on it, Greg. That's for sure.
There we go.
Awesome.
Hey.
Awesome. That means I have to go to McChucklehead Stadium. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but the McMahon Stadium here in Calgary was built in 59 days. In 1959, as a matter of fact. It's 59 days they put that thing together. Oh, it's horrible. But
hey, Greg. Greg, what's the popular cuisine other than, the standard that he should be expecting?
Oh, okay. So you've probably heard of poutine.
Yes, sir.
Well, okay, it's actually pronounced poutine.
Okay.
The E is silent. En
Makes
français, en French, right?
Right.
Poutine. It's not poutine. But you're going to be in Western Canada where they don't understand the difference between the two languages. So go ahead and say poutine all you'd like. Have you ever had a graham wafer meringue pie?
I do not believe so. No.
Oh, they're all over the place in Winnipeg.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, my aunt used to work in a very famous truck stop there where they made these guys, and the truckers would come in and get the whole pie.
Oh.
Yeah, and she used to make those. What else is big? Well, you're gonna enjoy sausage. Very, very good sausage in Winnipeg.
Really?
Yeah. Ukrainian sausage, Polish sausage. Oh yeah, you're gonna have a good time with that. And then you've got your mainstays there too, So, yeah, it'll be interesting for you to come up to Canada.
I'm very excited. It'll be my third time in Canada. Never in the middle. I've only been on either side, but now I get to see what the middle of Canada's like.
Well, the middle of Canada is Regina, where the Saskatchewan Roughriders play in. Every one of those trees was hand planted that you see in the city.
Wow.
Huh.
Every single tree in the city of Regina was hand planted.
Wow.
Because they didn't have any.
Oh, that's a good
Really?
reason.
Yeah.
That tells you how much of the prairies this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting for you. The Winnipeg Jets are currently playing the Stanley Cup. They're doing very well. So you could be watching a Stanley Cup parade this year.
That's sweet.
That would be sweet.
Absolutely.
Although I can't imagine Winnipeg actually winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, me neither.
It just doesn't make any sense because, of course, when I was growing up and I was a young man and Wayne Gretzky was around and the Winnipeg Jets were still in the NHL at that time and they had good teams. They had Randy Carlyle, Dale Hawerchuk, players like that. But they could not get past the Edmonton Oilers. There was just no way they were going to beat those Oilers teams.
Sheesh, yeah.
And then, of course, they ended up leaving. They ended up going out to Phoenix, and then they got the team back because the Atlanta situation happened, and they got their team back. But again, Winnipeg and the Stanley Cup just doesn't make any sense. But hey, you never know. You never know.
It'd be cool to bring a Stanley Cup and a Grey Cup. It could be the.
There we go.
There you go.
You know.
Well, I still have hope for my Edmonton Elks, but yeah. As a matter of fact,
look at that.
There's my Edmonton jersey with no name on it either.
Are there any colloquialisms that I should be expecting?
There we go.
Well, don't go saying A every two. No. Have you heard me say A once? No.
I have not. No.
Yeah. That whole who were they?
Well, for that you can blame Bob and Doug McKenzie.
That's right, Bob and Doug. That's who I was trying to say. It was Bob and Doug McKenzie. Just expect everybody to be nice and polite with you.
There we go. Very
awesome.
polite.
That's it.
Love it.
Because we are nice and polite people up here. So it's going to be a good time for you.
I'm honestly super excited. It couldn't be. It's a great opportunity, and I couldn't be more blessed to have it.
Look at Jeff Barnes with the A. Yeah, okay. And yes, I was showing off my jersey. But, hey, there you go.
Of course.
So you enjoy your trip up, and I hope you end up being a member of the Blue Bombers this season.
There we go.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to
Thank
come
you
back
so
on.
much.
Great.
And we will be watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Yeah, get to see him throw some people around.
Yeah.
There you are. And how's that for the knowledge of the city of Winnipeg?
Beautifully done.
Oh.
I'm sure that the Chamber of Commerce will soon be trying to get you formally to join as an ambassador to the city.
Get you a key.
Huh, maybe. Because I know I don't get one out here. I don't get one in Calgary. No, because, it just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, you want to start off with the 2022 NFL draft picks?
Yes, that's perfect.
All right. So we have the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals did not have a first-round draft pick. But they did pick up Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State in round 2. Cameron Thomas, who I know Bill was a huge fan of, from San Diego State.
Yep. Still
Um,
in the league,
Miguel,
just on a different team.
Miguel Sanders. Miguel Sanders.
He is still
as
playing
well, the edge
football,
from
but not in the
Cincinnati.
NFL. He's in the UFL now. Yeah.
Correct. Keontae Ingram, a running back from USC. Lasita Smith,
In the
the guard
NFL
from Virginia
still.
Tech. Christian Matthew, the Valdosta State cornerback. Jesse Lukita, the linebacker from Penn State, and Marcus Hayes, the guard from Oklahoma. So,
Right.
what did you guys
It
make
nailed-
of the Arizona Cardinals draft class in 2022?
Well, I could tell they weren't big into analytics, right? Some of those picks, I was big on Trey McBride. I think it was my tight end. I'm my tight end 1. I have to go back and check, but I know I had him near the top of my tight end rankings that year. Terrific, and the gateway drug was his older brother. He had an older brother who was a terrific pass rusher, but had injury issues and was a 6th-year player, and never really, quite got back to being the player he was before his injuries. But through his older brother, I found Trey, and I was like, is anybody else watching this guy? So I was an early adopter on Trey McBride. As you said, I was also a big Cam Thomas guy. I was worried about Myjai Sanders' lower body strength, and it ended up being, I think, one of the things that kept him from being the player people thought he could be. Sort of like Deion Jordan. He has this guy, he moves fairly well, he's very long and rangy, but he got washed, even by tight ends, kind of tossed him around when he got blocked by them. Keontae Ingram was a back who could do a little bit of everything, but not great at any one thing. Smith is one of those powerhouse people, right? Not super athletic. You hear all those things about a knife fighter in an alley or whatever. A guy that can't maybe do everything, but has a lot of toughness and much better as a run blocker than as a pass protector. That was true of him in college and continued to be true of him going forward. And of course, we now have him in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's still a team that cares about the run game, and I don't know how much we're going to throw the ball this year. And then you made mention of Christian Matthew, obviously one of my small school guys, so I was very sort of plugged into him and what I thought he could possibly be. And some of the things I noticed, as you often see, like some guys are really good in zone, some guys are really good in man. He hadn't been asked to do certain things as a collegian, and so in making the jump, I wanted to know, what he could really do. And at the College Ground Showcase, he got put in some slightly new and different situations. I saw some things that were good there, some things that weren't so good there. And then he's a free agent now. He was with the Ravens at the end of last season, I think. But that's a guy I think will be back with somebody somewhere. Another Canadian, right? I'm almost certain Luketa is from Canada, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought I remembered that correctly about him. Things to like about him: plays hard, really good on special teams. I thought he never did quite enough as a defender, especially production-wise, to indicate that he was likely to stick in the NFL. But he's going to hang around just because of. I know some scouts liked him a fair amount, and I think he's still in the league with. Yeah, he's with the team drafted, right? He's still with Arizona. Okay. I thought he was still in Arizona. So, and then Hayes and one of those powerhouse, not quite, the demeanor that you got from Mr. Smith, not quite the same sort of, snap your spine kind of thing, the energy that you got from Lasita Smith. But I know that Marquise Haynes has bounced around a little bit. I think he's been with Green Bay also, and maybe the Commanders. I think
he spent some time in the Commanders camp. Yep.
Yeah, and I think now he's a Packer. Another guy that's much better in the run game than as a pass defender. But like I said, unlike Smith, not a true powerhouse, right? Not a guy that just tosses people around. So he's sort of I don't want to use the term finesse guard because that sounds, but he's a movement guard as opposed to a power guard. Well, Smith is a power guard, right?
Power.
He's not one of those guys that just clamps onto people and just snaps them. He's a guy that is good at like getting out in the move and, you know, getting angles on people and sort of walling them off as opposed to like, you know, like Smith, who kind of wants to, you know, break your breastplate. But so of the guys that were in that draft, four of them, I guess, are still on the team.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 of them are still on the team. And, of course, 1 is a star. McBride's a star. So
Bingo.
if you get 1 star and 3 contributors, it's not a bad draft, but it's not a great draft.
So, Randall, what grade did you give the Arizona Cardinals for their 2022 draft?
I gave him a C+.
That's about
for
right.
McBride. Yeah, I gave for McBride. I mean, because he is a star. He's second highest paid just because, you know, George Kittle just got paid sort of thing. So that is something to talk about. And yeah, as the depth goes, I mean, they missed on some important third round guys, to be honest. And Keontae Ingram, I did have some confidence in him, but, you know, he kind of started floating around. So C+.
Perfect, because that is the same grade that I gave them, was a C+. Of course, that guy who went to that fight on school, I didn't really, you know, see he went to fight on, so disqualified. No, I'm kidding. Where's George? My brother in anger, who loves his USC Trojans. So, Mr. Randall, we're going to do the Atlanta Falcons next.
There we go.
All right.
So
I got him.
We
I got him pulled up too. If you'd like me to go through them, Greg.
Sure, just go ahead then.
All right. Yeah. First rounder was Drake London. I believe pick 8 was his pick. Great pick, obviously. Drake London did have, you know, it's hard to say that if what his development was in the first year or so, because their quarterback play in Atlanta was dicey. This same draft, they drafted Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. So then they worked him in with a little bit. So the quarterback floating maybe affected a little bit of his development. But Drake London is a dog. I love him. He's a great, tall X receiver and can move. He was a great pick in the first round. Then you go to the defensive end. In the second round, they had 2 seconds. Arnold Abidaketi from Penn State. He's still on the roster, doing well. I believe he's second in the depth chart, but 2024, he had 39 pressures, 6 sacks. Solid player, to be honest, so that was a great grab. And then from Montana State with their second rounder, they went inside linebacker Troy Anderson. He is still a good player in the system, but some injury bugs caught him, so his statistics aren't really that crazy in line, but he's still a good player, just caught some injury bugs. Desmond Ridder. You know, I wasn't high on Desmond Ridder coming into the NFL draft, to be honest with you. I think his arm strength was a little weak, and his team and defense was more or less in what Cincinnati was. So he did not end up working out. Had some shots, didn't obviously work out. Then they moved on to their second third rounder, an outside linebacker, D'Angelo Malone from Western Kentucky. He still is on the team as well, deep in the depth chart, but still on the team, so he does contribute. Then they got a good 5th rounder in Tyler Algier from BYU. He was a very, very serviceable backup running back. Really strong runner. He's doing well. Still second in the depth chart for them. And then they went with a 6th rounder in Justin Schaefer from Georgia, the offensive guard. He's still in the depth chart with a little bit of the practice squad guard for him. So he's still in the system working out. And then the last pick in the last 6th rounder that they had was John Fitzpatrick from Georgia, the tight end. He ended up signing with Green Bay relatively quickly. I think within the first 16 months or so, he was released and then Green Bay signed him. So he's still floating around in the NFL. So to be honest, I believe the Atlanta Falcons had a good draft overall.
And what grade did you give the Falcons for this draft, Bill?
To me, I give them a B+. I think that they had no full-on, big-time misses, particularly in the. I mean, Fitzpatrick's bottom of the roster kind of guy that has to contribute on special teams, and Ridder. People reach on quarterbacks all the time, and that's why it's not an A, right? Because. Yeah. And I still think Ritter's going to be a decent backup, he's going to be the kind of guy that floats around the league as a backup type for probably another 8 years. Backup quarterbacks, especially if they can learn systems fairly quickly, can play almost as long as they want to. But I was a big Anderson guy, and once again, as you said, outside of the fact that he just can't stay healthy, he's really good when he's on the field. Ibikiti is one of their better pass rushers. Now, they haven't had a great pass rush, but he's one of the better ones on that roster. And Algier is a steal. I thought Algier was a terrific football player in college. A late conversion, right? With 2 more years to go in his collegiate career, he moved from linebacker to running back, and he takes off like a rocket ship. Schaefer is, once again, one of those sort of somewhat limited, but solid offensive guard. And, I'm a big Drake London guy. So I think it's a really good draft.
Yeah. My grade for that draft for the Falcons is a B+. Outside of Desmond Ridder, which this could have turned into an A- draft for this Falcons team.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to do the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, here we go.
Because round 1, pick 14, I think there was just somebody from Notre Dame that was taken by the Ravens, Kyle Hamilton, the safety. And then they took Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa, with their second first-round pick. Then they took David Ojabo, the edge from Michigan. See, I'm even being nice tonight. I said that school's name. All right. Then they went out and got Travis Jones, the defensive tackle from Connecticut. Daniel Falele, the big man from Minnesota, was round 4. Jalen Armour Davis, a cornerback from Alabama. Charlie Kolar, a tight end from Iowa State, a guy that I just loved in that draft as well. Jordan Stout was their kicker punt returner from Penn State that they drafted in round 4. Isaiah Likely, another tight end that Bill and I both liked, coming out of Coastal Carolina.
Big time fan.
Mm-hmm.
Demarion Williams, a cornerback from Houston. And then they took Tyler Batty, the running back from Missouri. So this draft, for me, the first 2 picks, A++. I don't care. Tyler Linderbaum was easily my favorite center that I've watched in the last several years.
Yep.
And Kyle Hamilton, of course, being the Notre Dame guy that I am. Notre Dame. But when they took Ojabo, who got himself injured, unfortunately, at his pro day, and they still took him, which is great for the Ravens. He's done well at their edge. The Travis Jones, Bill, you and I loved Mr. Jones, didn't we?
Yep, and I still think it's going to happen for him. He may not ever become a star, but I think this is going to be the year that we sort of see the real Travis Jones. They've messed around, tweaked around, done some things with how they're using him, and I think they've figured out how to get the best out of him. So this, if it doesn't happen this year, it may not ever happen, but I think this year is the breakout year for Travis.
Yeah. And, of course, there are 2 tight ends that they ended up taking, Kolar and Likely. Likely has been superb for them. I give this an A+ rating as far as the draft grade goes. Randall, what did you have for the Ravens?
I gave him an A. I don't think I gave anybody an A+, so A's the highest for me.
Okay. And Mr. Bill?
A-. I think that not they have any misses. Kolar is he's not terrible, obviously, but I feel like, when you're, here's the biggest miss to me is Falele, right? Falele was a guy that really struggled with, especially like the smaller, quicker pass rushers, even in college. And when you get to the NFL, you don't suddenly get better at that. So Demarion Williams wasn't a terrible pick, but didn't really do much. Yeah, so I would say, but for me, and Jordan Stout obviously was a little bit of a miss, but Falele to me was the only. I mean, not he's early. He has a mid-round pick at pick 110, but I felt like they could have just gone and gotten a regular guard who would have been good right of the box at guard, as opposed to basically wasting everyone. Not wasting, but like trying this kid out at right tackle. I get it. You're always looking for tackles, but to me, it jumped out on tape his lack of ability to change direction, and anyone with a decent counter move just gave him fits. So that's the only reason I can't go with like a straight up A is Falele at 110 is the main reason.
But he did play a pretty decent guard this year for them.
Yeah, he played decent guard. But I'm saying you could have just gotten a guard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having the couple of years where you just kind of struggled, frankly, at right tackle.
Yep, exactly. Mr. Randall, the next team, I think the next team belongs to you since you cheer for either the Bills.
Yeah, I was going to be offended if you had Bill do it. Alrighty, so first pick, we were that draft, we were kind of pigeonholed. We had actually a need. This was probably Brandon Beane's only year where we actually needed a cornerback, and that was it, sort of thing. So we ended up trading up 2 spots, and we pigeonholed ourselves into Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam was a decent cornerback coming out. I didn't have a first-round grade on him, but he could have worked out better if we didn't run so much zone. He did play zone back in Florida, but he was better at man, in my opinion, and we didn't play enough man for him, and he did not develop. He had an injury in the first year, too, so that was not a great first-round pick for us. But then we kind of bounced back, and we go to James Cook from Georgia in the second round. He ended up working out very well. His speed worked out well, and with our offensive line, the way they run duos, really worked out for James Cook, and he was a great second-round pick. We'll see if he gets extended next year. And then we went right back into the third round. We got Terrell Bernard, who we extended this year. Great off-ball linebacker, turnover machine, and just has a great IQ. He's the one screaming in the middle of the defense for orders and things along the line, so I love that. We also extended Khalil Shakir this year, one of the best slot wide receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. 998 yards before the playoffs started, and his average depth of target was like 3.2 yards. So that great way. He always finds space, and he always makes runs. So we extended him. Matt Ariza was our 6th-round pick. We did need a punter bad. We did get excited. Unfortunately, those allegations came out, and then fortunately, those allegations were not true. So then he was able to come back. I believe he's still the punter for the Chiefs. And then with our 6th-round pick, our first 6th-round pick, we went with Christian Benford from Villanova. We also extended him. So even though we missed out on Kaiir Elam, we got a top 15 cornerback in Christian Benford. He is incredible. His trail technique is insane, and his IQ is the reason that he makes up for his a little bit slow speed, to be honest. Then we went with the 6th-round pick, the second 6th-round pick with Luke Tenuta for Virginia Tech. He bounced around with the Bills. He was a little bit of the practice squad. I think he maybe played a game or two when we had some injuries. And then with our last pick, we went with inside linebacker Balin Spector from Clemson. He was actually he did not get a lot of notoriety because he sat in our depth chart, but he sat in our depth chart and he stayed on our 53 every single year. And anytime injuries arose, his name would pop out and he would be a good contributor in our system. So our 7th-round pick, even though he doesn't get the notoriety, he was a great pick as a depth piece and a really reliable guy that if injuries came on, it wasn't a major gap. So I enjoyed this draft. As Bill loves me to say, biases included, I gave them a B+.
Mr. Bill, what did you give the Bills?
My favorite pick was Christian Benford. I was so disappointed that we didn't take him in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I was shocked that he was just sitting there for you guys there. Ariza was, the punt god, right? As they called him, I believe. Terrific football player. Tenuta is another of those, knife fighters, whatever term you want to use, just, biker club bouncer, like all the terms people use for that guy that may not be the most athletic, but is just a mean, tough guy. Spectre was a steal. I terrific athlete, good in space. I won't be shocked if he eventually becomes a starter down the road, but at least he's going to always be a contributor. I mean, there's outside of Elam, the reason that I can't give it them better than just a flat out B is Kerry Elam. When you pick a guy at 23 who is I'll use the term my friend Jim Coburn used, a pacifist, right? He didn't like to mix it up. He didn't like to fight through blocks. He didn't like to tackle. He didn't like any of the hard, physical, tough parts of football, or he didn't excel at them. I don't know if he liked them or not. Maybe he loved them and just didn't know how to show it. But he didn't excel at anything had to do with mixing it up. And for that, and he went 23. Like that's when you miss that early on a player who on tape also didn't fight through blocks and didn't really seem to like to tackle, or at least didn't want to become good at tackling. I'll put it that way, whether you liked it or not. That's why I can't give it higher than a flat out B. But man, did you guys kick it into overdrive in the last half of the draft?
I know.
Yep.
Sweet God in heaven. Sweet God in heaven.
And
If
this is.
I was going to say, if you flip this draft on its head, if your last pick is Elam, right?
Makes more sense.
I mean, now I'm giving you an A.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, their picks in since it was round 5 at 148. Benford was picked 185 in round 6. Tenuta was 209 in round 6. This was a draft that we always point out on day 3 of this draft. This is when the meat and potatoes comes, and the Bills got their meat and potatoes on day 3. Kyer Elam is now going to be a Dallas Cowboy, so he's going to be perfectly suited to not wanting to tackle and all that jazz, because the guy he's going to be playing for, he doesn't like to tackle either in Trayvon Diggs. So, we'll see what happens with that. Mr. Bill.
Yes, sir.
The Carolina Panthers.
Next up is the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers, stop me if you've heard this before, needed everything. They were a team in search of everything. Ike Ekwonu was one of those guys who was once again that debate, the tackle guard debate, because he was a little shorter in terms of height and didn't have super long arms. But he's worked out fine. I wouldn't say he's elite, but he's a solid player. And I think that as the team improves, I think that he'll start to, look better. Actually, I take it back. He did have good arm length. So he came in at, 6'4", which concerns some people, but he had 34-inch arms. So yeah, his arms were fine, more than fine. But this is a team that just struggled with everything. So solid pick there. Then we come to Matt Corral at pick 94. They did not have a second round pick. So the legend of Matt Corral. A guy that was a big time recruit in Southern California. Transfer from Oaks Christian after a fight with Wayne Gretzky's kid. And speaking of Canada, there's our little Canadian tie-in. Transfers to, of all places, Long Beach Polytechnical High School, right? You don't see people make that transition very often from Oaks Christian to Long Beach Poly. And had a good run there, had a good year. At first, everyone thought he was going to end up at USC. That didn't end up happening. Ends up eventually settling in at Ole Miss. Had a nice little run there, but had some of that crash test dummy in his system. Threw his body around just recklessly. And now he's in the UFL. And he was a throwing quarterback at the most recent combine, for those who saw him there. And thought, does he have a younger brother? No, that's him. That's Matthew Anthony Corral out there throwing the ball around. A talented guy, but just didn't seem to get what quarterbacks are supposed to do and not do. Then we come to Brandon Smith. It's pick 120, so the word reach is probably not the correct word to use. I still feel like there were better players on the board around that point. But They did. I think they looked at just his physical testing numbers, right? Guy came in at 6'3.5", 250, and ran 4.52. At 37.5-inch vert, and a 6.943 cone, which, is not bad for a 191-pound slot receiver. So I get them looking at that testing and saying, you know what, we'll turn him into something. But they didn't. He was waived, then signed to the Eagles practice squad, and then waived, and then re-signed to practice squad, and then released, and the Jets picked him up, and I think he's on the Raiders. He signed a futures contract with the Raiders. So his story may not yet be written, but I mean, and once again, it's not super early, but once again, I think there are better players still available on the board. I was an Amari Barno guy, so I did like Barno. In fact, I would have taken him over Smith. As I just mentioned, I wasn't sold so much on Smith, and at least he's on the team. And he's sort of he's like a two-trick pony. He's not a one-trick pony. He has some really good sort of natural pass rush instincts, and if he sees it and goes after it, he can like blow up screens and stuff like that. When you run straight at him, he sometimes struggles, but he's good at chasing the run down from the backside. Cade Mays, right? There we go. This might have been their best pick, really. I mean, in terms of like value and place where they picked him and things like that. And he's a, big, strong dude. When their run game improves, it'll be largely probably because of Cade Mays. And they went just pure speed with Kalen Barnes. And once again, it's pick 242. It's hard to really criticize it too much. But as was mentioned, what's your favorite team again, Greg?
I think I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I think.
Right. That's NFL. What's your favorite CFL team?
The Edmonton Elks.
The Edmonton Elks, and that is where Kalen Barnes is currently plying his trade. So
yes, he is.
So they've got the middle, right, sort of a donut hole, right? Both Corral and Smith didn't stick. Barno's stuck, Mays is stuck, and Barnes is gone. So that's of the players drafted, and of course they're missing a pick because they didn't have a second rounder. But Aquanu is one of the linchpins on that offense. Cade Mays is one of the linchpins of that offensive line, and Barno's a contributor on the defense. Smith gone, Barnes gone. C plus. It's hard to find too much to get excited about. They did find two good players on the offensive line, but you should be able to, especially picking where the Panthers pick, you should be able to do better than that.
Well, I recall that year's Draft Central where I was the one who was all over Aquanu as being the top offensive lineman that year. And everybody else was on this guy that went to the New York Giants, who we'll talk about later.
Yep.
I agree with you on this on the grade, Bill. What did you give the Panthers?
I did the same exact C plus.
Bingo.
Yep.
So now we're going to do a very lengthy list. The Chicago Bears, who took in round 2, pick 39, my favorite other guy from that year's draft, Kyler Gordon from the Washington Huskies. And what did I keep saying to you, Bill?
You said you liked him better than McDuffie, I think, at one point.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that seemed a tad rich, but yeah, I do like him.
Yeah. And he has another contract and all that good sort of stuff as well.
Yes.
They also have Jaquan Brisker, the safety from Penn State, who was taken
really good.
Pick 48, an excellent pick for them. And then things kind of went, downhill. Velus Jones Jr., the wide receiver from Tennessee, the guy was all speed, had no hands, should never have been picked at this spot. It was a terrible, terrible pick for the Bears.
A poor man's Jacoby Jones, I called him.
Yeah. So then they go all the way to pick 168 in round 5 with Braxton Jones. We all know the story of Braxton Jones.
Still on the team, at least.
Still on the team. Dominique Robinson, the edge from Miami, was picked at 174. Zachary Thomas, the old lineman from San Diego State, round 6, pick 186. Then they took Tristan Ebner, the running back from Baylor. Yes, kids, just 3 years ago, Baylor was sending players to the NFL. Yeah, and then they had Doug Kramer, the center from Illinois. Ja'Tyre Carter, the offensive tackle from Southern. Elijah Hicks, the safety from California. Did we not hear safeties in California again this year? Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah, they're doing something. They seem to have something going on. At least from that,
Yeah. And then Trenton Gill, the punter from North Carolina State. I gave the Bears a B- for this draft. So you go ahead and tell me what you had for them, Randall.
I had a B- too. The Velus Jones Jr. one was kind of the one that killed it and dropped it pretty far because it seemed like there was writing on the wall for him and they risked too much in the 3rd round. He was an older prospect too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, he was 24 and a half years old, I think, when they drafted him.
Right. Yeah. So no hands at 24 and a half. I don't think you're going to find him.
Yeah.
And what did you give this class, Bill?
Yeah, I gave it a C+, but I could see somebody giving it a slightly higher grade. I like the Kramer pick. Ebner is basically a one-trick pony. I liked, even though it was a slightly older prospect too, I liked Dominique Robinson because at least he had a really developed skill set.
Yeah.
Zachary Thomas is on the Texans. Velus Jones is on the Saints. So fattening frogs for snakes, right? When you're drafting players that especially, in the first, 4 or 5 rounds, I don't like drafting players that other team that don't play for your team. Ja'Tyre Carter is with the Panthers, but he was a later pick.
Panthers. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Packers. Yeah. Hicks is at least still on the team, and Gill. I don't know where Gill is.
I don't either.
I don't know if he's still in football, but I know he was. I think he was with Tampa Bay for a second.
I have no idea.
So Braxton Jones is a starter. So, check mark there. Brisker's really good. Gordon's. If they could have somehow kept the momentum rolling, right? They got off to such a good start. Getting Gordon at 39 and Brisker at 48. If you're a Bears fan, they're like, yeah, you're like all pumped up. It's like, we finally got this draft thing figured out. And then, the wheels came off the ride with Jones, with the first Jones. Braxton Jones, that's a better of the 2 picks. He's a solid player at pick 168, especially considering, turned to a starter at left tackle. Robinson's a contributor. Thomas gone. Ebner gone. Carter gone. And Kramer is, once again, a contributor. So that keeps them from bottoming out. But, they really got off to a great start, and then it all kind of fell apart.
There you go. Mr. Bill.
Yes.
We need you to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals 2022 NFL draft.
So, quiet as kept. The Bengals started drafting well the last few years. The Bengals, as we say every year, have the smallest scouting department in the NFL. This has been true, maybe not as long as I've been alive, but certainly as long as I've been doing deep dives into the draft, they've had the smallest. At one point, they had only 4 full-timers. I'm not even joking. Look it up. At one point, they had 4 full-timers and 2 part-timers. They have grown the department a little bit, but they come right out of the box with Daxton Hill, of course, the brother of Justice Hill. And, immediate contribution from him. He's played some corner and some safety for them. Cam Taylor-Britt, immediate contributor. That's a solid pick. And then Zachary Carter didn't so much work out for them. I believe he's out in the desert in Las Vegas now. Volson is a major part of their offense. That's a good solid pick. Tyson Anderson's still on the team. I really like the Gunter pick. I'm a big Gunter guy. I just thought that while he might never be like a star, I thought he would definitely be a real contributor. And, didn't quite work out. So I'll admit I too was a miss on Gunter. But, looking at their draft, of course, they didn't have a huge number of picks. They didn't have a 6th rounder. And they didn't have that's it, right? They had a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Yeah, they just didn't have a 6th rounder. So, Gunter didn't stick, and Carter didn't stick, but everyone else not only stuck but contributed. So I'm going to give that give it a solid B-. A solid B-.
And where did you put their draft class, Mr. Randall?
I did a B- solely with Hill and Cam Taylor-Britt. I did love those two coming out, and I was I wouldn't say devastated, but I was just watching, rolling my eyes as they picked those two good guys.
Well, B- was my grade as well. So Randall, go ahead and give us the other Ohio team.
All right. Well, so the Cleveland Browns did not have a 1st or a 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, so they just had to go into the 3rd round. So with starting at the 3rd round, they went quarterback Martin Emerson out of Mississippi State. That was actually a very good 3rd round pick. He's a good starting quarterback. He had a good rookie year, but kind of fell off a little bit, but he's still in the mix. And then they went with the defensive end from UAB with their 2nd, 3rd round, and Alex Wright. He's a backup edge, a contributor, had a couple injuries. I believe he had a tricep injury that kind of stunted his development a little bit, but still contributed to the Cleveland Browns. And then David Bell as well, a 3rd round pick. He was kind of in the mix, stayed as an average wide receiver. I believe he still is with the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
That was their, and then that was their 3rd. And then with their 4th rounder, they went with Oklahoma, the defensive tackle, Perrion Winfrey. I was pretty high on him, but some injuries also stunted, and he got moved over to the New York Jets, suffered some injuries as well. They went with Cade York from LSU as their other 4th rounder as a kicker. He's on to the Bengals. And then right after that, they got a good running back in that 5th round in Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati. Yes. He is still working with the Cleveland Browns. Always a reliable backup. So that was a great 5th rounder by them. Then they moved on with a 6th rounder from Oklahoma, the wide receiver from Michael Woods. I believe he is not on the roster anymore. Their last 3 picks did not end up in the roster, did not land too long. After that was Oklahoma, another Oklahoma guy in defensive end, Isaiah Thomas. He is not on the team, or I believe on a football roster, as well as Dawson Deaton, the center from Texas Tech. He unfortunately is not in the NFL either. So I gave them a C overall, just because they didn't have a 1st or a 2nd. They did have 3 thirds, but not dealing with a 1st or a 2nd was a little rough. And I like Perrion Winfrey coming out, unfortunately. But the Martin Emerson was a good grab, and David Bell kind of serviced them for a little bit.
And Bill, what did you give them as far as the grade went?
I agree. Considering they didn't have a 1st or 2nd rounder, they at least got contributions. The knock on Emerson, of course, is how skinny he was. I think he was 166 at the combine, if memory serves me correctly. But he's managed to, not be snapped in two, that people, sort of were concerned or whatever might happen with him. He's still out there playing football, people. Alex Smith is a contributor. I was one of those people that was really thought that David Bell would not, be able to do. I mean, not that everything's athletic ability. People talked about, how little they care about the 40 and things like that. But when you are not super quick, in addition to not being fast, and you're also not like super physically imposing, like he's not a powerhouse. Like when Anquan Bolden ran 4.71 and 4.72, he also was playing at 222 to 217 pounds at 6'1.5", and was just strong as a bull. And then he got heavier, right? and got even stronger. And Bell wasn't a guy that was that powerful. I also was a guy that held out high hopes for Winfrey, and he's looking good at the UFL level. He's playing well at that level. But that's another guy that that didn't quite master some of the things you need to do to be a contributor as a 3-tech. Ford was probably the best pick of the group, right? Considering where he was picked and how he's right now the RB1. Now that may not continue to be the case, but currently he is. And Woods was a good blocking wide receiver. When the most notable thing about you at wide receiver is blocking, that tells you a lot about what kind of player you are. I think Isaiah Thomas is actually a Bengal now.
I think so.
Correctly.
I think he's Bengals, yeah.
Yep. And then, Dawson Deaton is out of the league, as memory serves. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys who at least contribute on some level, and then, a starter in Emerson, a starter in Ford, and the other guys are sort of, second-tier contributors who stayed on the team. And then some guys who, are either off the team or even out of the league. So, yeah, I don't see I can go much higher than that.
Yeah, and I have the exact same grade. Okay, gentlemen, sit down, relax, because this is the Dallas Cowboys. I think I got this one covered, okay? I think I do.
I think you do too, Craig.
Yeah, so Tyler Smith, pick 24, listed as an offensive tackle from Tulsa, but as we said on Draft Central, he was going to be a guard in the NFL, and he, did play guard for the Dallas Cowboys, and he's a very good left guard at that. Sam Williams, the mercurial edge out of Ole Miss. Mr. Williams has some work to do this year to stay with the Cowboys because he doesn't have any sponsors there any longer. And then Jeff and I were high on Jalen Tolbert. And he was a 3rd-round pick in pick 88. He has not been able to succeed so far. We will see what happens with Mr. Schottenheimer's offense rather than Mike McCarthy's offense. I'm still high on Jalen Tolbert. We'll see what happens with him. Then they got Jake Ferguson, the tight end from Wisconsin, who last year he bulked up. He got hurt. I think he's lost some weight. He's going to go back down to his playing size prior to that. And with Dak Prescott also being out, that didn't help him any at all. Round 5, Matt Lowetzko. North Dakota offensive tackle. He's just had nothing but injuries to deal with. But then they found Mr. Deron Bland, a cornerback from Fresno State, who I think he owns the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season. Yeah. And Damone Clark was taken 9 picks later, the linebacker from LSU. He's still there. He may not be there much longer. John Ridgway, who was an absolute animal from Arkansas, who's bounced around the league as well. And then Devin Harper, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. This class, I give him a B. So go ahead and tell me what you think of this class, Randall.
I gave him a B+. First of all, getting Deron Bland, who did set the pick 6 record and was a ball hawk in the 5th round, was very good. Jake Ferguson, I did like, and I know that he bulked up and then got injured, but I like him as a tight end. I thought that was a good grab in the 4th round. Tyler Smith, good guard. I was really hoping that John Ridgway was going to be. He was an animal at Arkansas. Really had high hopes for him. Very sad that he ended up bouncing around. So I gave him a B+. I also do still have faith in Jalen Tolbert too, and I liked his flashes. So I gave him a B+. I went one tick higher.
Yeah,
very nice of you, Mr. Randall. Very nice.
Yeah,
maybe it's because you were here too.
Yeah, I also have a B, and Harper is currently a Steeler. I got to see Ridgway in person a couple of times. He was a Redbird at Illinois State. Got to see him play against Eastern Illinois. And one time got to see him play against Northwestern. They played up here at Evanston against Northwestern once. So got to see him a couple of times. Truly was dominant when he was at Illinois State. Still a good player at Arkansas. It's not a miss, but he's going to hang around the league. I think he's going to, continue to be sort of a rotational player. If he goes to the right situation, I could see him sticking as a 0 or 1 tech. Clark is a special teamer, reserve type guy. Nothing wrong with that, especially at pick 176. So there's no real reaches or big time misses there, really. Smith is a great pick. Ferguson's a really good pick. Bland is a fantastic pick.
My B grade comes because of Sam Williams. I was not a Sam Williams fan out of Ole Miss. Right. I have never been that big of a Sam Williams fan, and he has shown his
character stuff. Yeah, there was some character stuff on him.
Exactly. And they came shining through, as always happens with second round picks for the Cowboys. They basically have sucked at it for years. And Sam Williams, like I said, he doesn't have any sponsors on that team any longer. He better be a well-behaved young man at camp this year.
And productive, right?
Yep.
Both.
Right. Yep.
He needs both. He needs to be locked in. He needs to be a great citizen, and he needs to probably, have by far his best season, 7.5 sacks, maybe around 62 tackles with about 40 of them being solo tackles, and maybe bat down about 3 passes, and maybe get about 21 pressures. That might keep him around, but he needs a big season. Yeah.
Yep. And of course, the number 1 pick of the Cowboys that year was Jerry and Steven were out there just going, "We've got ourselves a left tackle." What? No. He's going to be a guard in the NFL. Please do not. And of course, they tried him out there as a left tackle, and the penalties were just horrifying.
Right.
But again, he has moved to his proper place in the NFL as a left guard, and
he's been very good.
He's been very, very good for them. So go ahead, Mr. Randall, and let's talk about the Denver Broncos.
All right, Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos did not have a first rounder in this draft either, so they went with a second rounder and outside linebacker Nick Benito from Oklahoma. Great. He was highly touted into the draft, and he kind of held his own there too. Great starter, great 2024 year, had 15 sacks and 11 QB hits, so that great grab and still going strong. They got a good tight end in the third round in Greg Dulcich. I like Greg Dulcich in his game, especially in Denver. Great tight end too in the league, and good contributor. They went with, in the fourth round, they had 2 picks. They ended up going with Damari Mathis from Pitt, the cornerback. He could have been a good contributor. He ended up in the depth chart because of injuries. The injuries plagued him throughout the NFL, so that was unfortunate. And then in their second, fourth rounder, they went with, I'm going to butcher this one, Iomia Uwazurike from Iowa State, the defensive end. Deep depth defensive end for Denver, but still on the team. Then they went with their 5th rounder in Delarian Turner Yell from Oklahoma, the safety. He's also in that depth chart, so contributing back there. The wide receiver from Samford, they went Montrell Washington as a 5th rounder. He unfortunately kind of floated around, and he did not perform as well for the NFL. And then you had, in the 6th rounder, you had center Luke Wattenberg from Wisconsin, their starting center. So he ended his great 6th rounder as a center. And then Faion Hicks from Wisconsin, the cornerback. He is out of the league, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I gave the Denver Broncos a C overall.
Yeah, and what did you give them, Bill?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Once again, you don't want to call a pick at 116 a reach, but Iona Ozarike was a player that I really do believe would have been for them for their 152 or even 162 or even maybe 171. He was big and raw at Iowa State, and you could see, there was something there, but he was never very productive in college. And generally speaking, when guys aren't productive in college, they don't suddenly become productive in the NFL. I was a big, and still am a big Damari Mathis guy.
Yeah.
I really wanted him in Pittsburgh. And I know Pittsburgh often will just take guys from Pitt because they're right there. Dulcich, outside of just being a guy that can be a little bit brittle, is, tremendous prospect, just like I said, a guy that has had some nagging injuries. Benito has been – I never understood why people didn't like Benito. I heard some chatter about him or people didn't like him. I always liked Benito. I think that's a good player and a good pick, and he's going to be a good player for a long time. Turner Yell is a fun, prospect still, but he's a guy that also didn't do everything at a super high level. He did 2 or 3 things very well and some things not so well. And that's still kind of who he is. Washington was a terrific kickoff and punt return guy in college, and has continued to be a pretty good special teamer. Hasn't done much as a receiver, which, to be expected to some extent. Phelan Hicks was another guy that was probably seen as a special teamer, has now made his way to the UFL. Matt Hinkson is at least still on the team, a rotational guy. Will probably never be much more than that. Wattenberg is a solid contributor. So, yeah, I agree. That feels like about a C to me, too. The best pick is probably the first one, Benito. He's been really pretty darn productive. And Dulcich was a solid pick. In fact, the first 3 picks, if Mathis and Dulcich can get healthy, will probably all be good, above average players at their positions. And then not so great after that, actually.
Yeah, I've got a C grade on him as well. Mr. Bill?
Yes, sir.
You get to give us
the Detroit Lions.
This is
a draft that helped if the Lions win a Super Bowl, this draft will probably be one of the main reasons why. They had a really good draft. Well, at the beginning, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be one of the top pass rushers probably for the next 10 years in the NFL. Jameson Williams was a scratch and dent guy, right? Obviously, he was hurt when they got him, but once he got healthy, he showed you why. He was one of the more exciting players. Got started at Ohio State, had a nice run there, and then really capped it off with his time in Alabama. Josh Paschal is one of those long, bendy pass rushers. And then value-wise, here's probably for terms of where he's selected the best pick, right? The Haitian sensation, Kirby Joseph from University of Illinois. I love that. Once again, another player I so desperately wanted in Pittsburgh. But I love – why didn't we take him? But I loved him. I loved his tape. And whatever else you want to say about Lovie Smith's time at Illinois, my God, they know how to recruit defensive backs. Nate Hobbs, right? Witherspoon, Kirby Joseph. I mean, sheesh. Joseph is just a terrific young player. James Mitchell, one of those scratch and dent sale guys that didn't really work out. Was consistently hurt at Virginia Tech, and wasn't able to really get healthier. Now he's with the Panthers. Maybe he'll find it there. The other fantastic pick. First of all, 2-time state wrestling champion. Now, that doesn't always mean something, but it usually does. Because of the mental and physical strength it takes to be a great wrestler. Malcolm Rodriguez was a fantastic wrestler and an amazing tackler at Oklahoma State. Fantastic pick. James Houston, right, when healthy, is one of the better. Now, unfortunately, like so many of their guys, last year he got hurt. But when he's healthy, I mean, what a steal he was at 217. In terms of snaps to sacks ratio, he may have been the number 1 guy in the league at one point. A part-time player putting up the production he did. Wow. Chase Lucas, he's now, I believe, a 49er. I wouldn't call that a miss because it's pick 237. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 contributors. Of those 6, 2 are stars, right? Maybe even 3. If Jameson Williams right now is a really good contributor, could make it to star status, that means half of the 6 guys who made the team would become stars. I'm going to give it a solid B+.
I gave the Detroit Lions an A- on this draft because Aiden Hutchinson, even though he went to that school up north, was the best edge player in this class. There's
Correct.
no doubt in my mind.
Correct.
Kirby Joseph as well, another player that I absolutely loved, just like you did, Bill, is now the highest paid safety in the league. Um, they just basically had a great draft from top to bottom, and you've already mentioned Malcolm Rodriguez, um, who, like you said, is a great wrestler. And yeah, this Detroit Lions run as NFC North champions began right here at this draft.
Yep.
Randall, what did you give this Lions?
So I lied. I gave them an A plus. I think I maybe put them as the best draft in the 2022, unless we can go down when I was grading them. But yeah, I gave them an A plus. I thought it was an incredible draft. I'm surprised when I heard A minus.
So there you go. All right, I'll do them. I don't like them. I'm not a big fan. It probably has something to do with that playoff loss that we just suffered to them a couple of seasons ago here. But yes, the Green Bay Packers, they surprised everybody and took Quay Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. He's been there. He's been a fairly decent contributor for them. Devontae Wyatt, the DT from Georgia, still there. Then, of course, they took Christian Watson, the wide receiver, in round 2 from North Dakota State. His whole situation is all injury related. Sean Ryan, the offensive lineman from UCLA. Then they took Romeo Doubs, the wide receiver from Nevada. I love Romeo Doubs. Probably due to the fact that one of my friends on X coached him as a kid. Zach Tom, the tackle from Wake Forest. Then they took Kingsley Enagbare, the edge from South Carolina. Tariq Carpenter, the linebacker from Georgia. And then their other 7th round picks here was Fayon Hicks, Rasheed Walker, and then Samori Toure, the wide receiver from Nebraska. I gave this Packers draft a B minus.
Yeah, I did B minus as well. It probably would have been a B or a B plus if Christian Watson avoided the injuries. Very unfortunate that he got those injuries because he was a dynamic vertical threat. So yeah, I gave him B minus as well.
And Mr. Bill?
Mute.
You're muted, Bill. Bill.
Romeo
there
Doubs
you
was one of my favorite. He made my all underappreciated team, and one of my favorite wide receivers in all of college football. I was like, why do they keep drafting all the good wide receivers? I was a little upset. Quay Walker, frankly, felt like a reach to me at 22.
Yep.
That's the only reason I can't go higher with their grade. I feel like it's a B minus because they reached. Zach Tom is a really good value. I'm a enormous fan, as I said, obviously, of Doubs. I think that Enagbare was decent value. Wyatt, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a reach, but I think he got carried by that sort of wave, the Georgia wave, right? All those Georgia players got pushed up a little by the success of Georgia's defense as a whole. But if you go back and watch that Georgia football team, Walker is the guy that seems he's always running around and he makes some plays, but he doesn't seem to always know what he's doing. And I feel like that continued in his pro career. And Wyatt was one of those guys I feel like sort of benefited from playing next to, the freak show at Jordan Davis. So Watson was a really solid guy from North Dakota State. And they have another. They took another interesting former small school wide receiver in Toure, who transferred up.
Yeah,
they love collecting wide receivers in Green Bay. So many wide receivers, but I feel like they could have gotten more out of this draft class. And Rasheed Walker was an interesting selection. First of all, it's a guy that sort of slid. I expected him to go earlier than that. So good value there. But how many of these guys have really contributed? Zach Tom, Romeo Dubs, right? Ryan a little bit. Watson when healthy. Wyatt and Walker are at least starters, though Walker has sometimes struggled. So yeah, I feel good about I could say C plus and feel good about it.
There we go. There we are. Okay, so we're gonna take a couple of seconds out here and do a little commercial break.
Streetwear is not dead. The next wave of black fashion comes out of the Bronx, New York. Rich Kid Clothing, picking up where FUBU, Rockaware, and Kyle Kanai left off. Rich Kid is for the next generation of Get Fly fashion heads. Use promo code MELLOW23 for 15% off your next order. And for orders over $100, there is free shipping. Again, use promo code MELLOW23 for 15% off your next order.
All right, folks, we're back now. And the next team for the 2022 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, Darryl Stingley, I don't like to predict that people might be in the Hall of Fame one day, but oh my gosh, Darryl Stingley. When I think about perfectly designed man cover corners, right? You think about Mark Haynes, you think about Deion Sanders, you think about Darrelle Revis, and in this Nnamdi Asomugha in his prime, and then you think about people like Darryl Stingley Jr. Derek Stingley Jr. is once again, I think he's going to make at least 4, maybe even 5 All-Pros, either first or second team in his career before it's all said and done. Just an amazing player. And then Kenyon Green is now a member of the Eagles. So, he wasn't terrible, but not quite what you'd like when you pick a guy 15th overall. You'd like him to play for your team. And then I'm a huge Jalen Petrie guy. And yet another player I somehow hoped would make his way to Pittsburgh. Didn't happen. Mitchie first didn't do much because of injury. He's now seen the field. Has not really dominated. And he's a rare Taiwanese Canadian mixed race professional football player. So once again, shout out to Canada for you, Greg. He's been sort of a 3/4 for them. A contributor, but not exactly a star. Christian Harris is another guy who's been a contributor. Dameon Pierce at times has been RB1. That is no longer the case. He's been sort of pushed down the depth chart due to other acquisitions. But I feel like in the right situation, he could go right by being an RB1. Then Booker is yet another Eagle. The Houston to Eagles pipeline continues. Once again, his story is not yet written, but he didn't really do a lot in his time with Houston. Quintero is now with the Falcons, I believe. Austin Deculus, at least, is with the team still. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys still with the team. 1 absolute superstar. And I would say another 3, 4 really solid contributors. I'll give it a B, a solid B.
What did you give the Texans in this draft?
I gave him a B plus because I do love Derek Stingley, I believe, just as much as Bill. And then Jalen Petrie was also one of my guys. I knew that he had to probably hone in his hitting for penalties and stuff going to the NFL, but man, he was a dog at Baylor, and I wanted him on Buffalo. John Mechie did have the cancer stuff, so it's hard to gauge what he could have been, and I think he was a viable second-round pick at his talent in Alabama. And then Dameon Pierce, definitely good player, good contributor. So I gave him a B plus.
And I also gave them a B, just like Bill did. So our next team up on that list, the Indianapolis Colts. Go ahead, Randall.
All right. They did not have a first rounder. So they went with, in the second rounder, they went Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, the wide receiver. He has up and down. He's a good receiver. Sometimes the Indianapolis Colts kind of shoot Alec Pierce in the foot sort of thing with their quarterback play and whatnot. So he was a good pick in the second round. Not an enormous contributor that I was hoping when he was coming into the league, but that's a little bit of the Indianapolis Colts. Then you go to Jelani Woods from Virginia, the tight end, as a third-round pick. I had hopes and dreams for him too. Large, big tight end. Didn't really pan out, and they obviously ended up drafting Tyler Warren this year to contribute more in that tight end room. They still have their starting left tackle in their third-round pick with Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan. So that was a solid pick in the third round. They had 3 third-rounders. Then they move on to Nick Cross, the safety from Maryland. He's also still with the team, contributing well. They did not have a fourth and went into a fifth with the defensive tackle Eric Johnson from Missouri State. He was released before the 2024 season, but contributed a little bit to the Indianapolis Colts. They double dipped in the tight end market with Andrew Ogletree from Youngstown State in the 6th round. Another depth tight end guy. Tell me if you heard this before with tight ends in Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully Tyler Warren works out. Then we have the defensive tackle Curtis Brooks from Cincinnati as a 6th rounder. He was released, and as a limited role in their 7th round, the Yale safety Rodney Thomas II, who is still with the Colts in a limited role. And I gave that draft a C because realistically, they do have a good amount of contributors, but more of a depth contributing draft.
Which is exactly the grade I gave them as well, a C.
Agreed.
And Bill, what did you give them?
Agreed. Yep. I think we all have the same grade. They fumbled.
Okay, now we're
I was going to say they fumbled some opportunities. If you look at the draft, you see who went after some of the guys they picked. It's like, oh,
yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I need you to do the Jacksonville Jaguars for me, Bill.
Well, guess what? I'm happy to do just that. So, the Jaguars aren't, a team that often picks early, right? That's not really news to anybody. And this was an important draft for them. They jump out with the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker. A very controversial pick for a variety of reasons. They could have had Aiden Hutchinson. They could have had, anybody, right? They could have had Darryl Stingley. They could have had anybody. This first pick overall. And they went with the mystery box, right? That's the term I use, a mystery box prospect, where no one quite knows what he is yet. He's improved. He's had some solid years, but he has not had years to me that justify the first overall selection. Then Devin Lloyd, a really versatile and smart linebacker from Utah. Then Luke Fortner, tough guy, center. I really like the Chad Muma pick. And then Snoop Conner. Things kind of fell off a little bit the tracks there. I don't think Snoop Conner's in the league with anybody right now. Then we come to Gregory Jr., who at least is still on the team as a sort of special teams reserve type contributor. Montaric Brown's a guy that a lot of people liked, still on the team. So 1, 2 sort of second-tier contributors, then 3 first-tier 3 or 4 first-tier contributors. And while I still believe Walker, frankly, was overdrafted, he is at least becoming productive. He's showing what it was that got them intrigued and interested. I still feel like if you really like Trayvon Walker, you try to see if you can trade down and still get him. But Yuri Trayvon Walker is at least a guy who's a solid NFL starter. Lloyd is a solid NFL starter. Foytner is a solid NFL starter. Muma also. And like I said, Connor, I think is out of the league altogether. Junior is a, special teamer mostly, and contributes that way. And same for Monterey Brown. So
what grade?
I'll give it a B-.
And that's exactly the grade I gave them as well, because Trayvon Walker, and I said this on Draft Central, he just is not going to be the number one pick of this draft that people are going to talk about for years and years and years. It was a mistake as far as I'm concerned. As you said, they should have traded him down, but they didn't do that. And so, yeah, that's my grade for them. Go ahead, Randall.
Yeah, I actually had him as a B-, but then put him to a C+ because of Aiden Hutchinson and what he has become.
Perfect. So I wanted you to do the Jacksonville Jaguars, Bill, because if you remember the Mockapalooza from this year, I was in the head of Mr. Veach. I was in this man's head.
You were.
I want to hear this. Lay it on.
Yeah, you were crazily close to their actual draft.
I took we'll discuss that. I took Trent McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington, for them in Mockapalooza. And then with pick 30 in first round, I took George Karlaftis, the edge from Purdue. Okay, this is a guy that just has not worked out. I don't understand why, but Sky Moore was the pick 54 for the Chiefs. Then I did take Brian Cook as well at pick 62 for them. I picked Leo Chanel, the linebacker from Wisconsin, for them. Then I missed. I did not get the Joshua Williams, the DB from Fayetteville State. I didn't have them taking Darian Kennard. I didn't have them taking Jalen Watson, but I did have them take Isaiah Pacheco. And Nazeeh Johnson, the safety for Marshall, was their 259th pick of that year. This draft, the Chiefs, I was in Mr. Veach's head. And, of course, I give this draft an A.
I mean, well done.
Go ahead and tell me, Randall.
I gave the draft a B+. I thought they had a very good draft. Trent McDuffie, obviously incredible. Karlaftis, incredible. I mean, impressive that you got 5 of those picks right, especially 4 in a row. That's insane. Isaiah Pacheco with a steal in the 7th. I'm now talking myself into an A, to be honest, when I'm saying this. But because of Isaiah Pacheco, I guess I was like semi-bitter that Sky Moore didn't work out, and I kind of blamed it on Kansas City Chiefs because he was also one of my guys. He had a great Senior Bowl that year and things along those lines, and I thought maybe Buffalo was going to take him. So I guess my bitterness put it as a B+, but talent-wise, you're probably right at an A.
Well, don't feel bad. I, too, had a B+.
All right.
I felt like they got off to a fantastic start, and they did, right? It's a fantastic start to the draft. Getting Trent McDuffie, oh my God, I'm over it mostly. And then I too thought they would take Karlaftis. I remember mocking Karlaftis to them. I mean, that was one of the ones I did nail on my mock draft. I had them taking Karlaftis there. In fact, I got a couple of these right too. I had Karlaftis and Sky Moore to them also. So in my last mock, I had that happening. I really wanted the Steelers to take Leo Chanel. And now I think he is the Steelers, right? I think we did get him finally.
Yes, he is.
Yep.
Yes, he is.
He's come home, right? Where he's reunited with Herbig and Watt. We're going to collect them all. We're going to get all the linebackers and edge rushers from Wisconsin. But I think that, obviously it's later, but I thought that Kennard was kind of a miss. And he's now with the Eagles, so maybe he'll turn out to be good because the Eagles tend to somehow magically fix players. Watson was a good pick. Pacheco was an outrageously good pick. I mean, why is he still there? Even now, I get a little bit upset. Like, why is Pacheco still there for them? I loved Karlaftis. I told people that they should not let him go to Kansas City. McDuffie, oh my God, what a good. So they get off to this ridiculously good start with those first 3 picks. Well, not first 3, but because Sky Moore hasn't really worked out. I still think this could be it. This could be his year. It better be for Sky Moore. And then it was Howard Bison, right? Turned Cincinnati safety Brian Cook has been a good contributor. Janal's been a great pickup, originally for them at least. But they didn't play him enough. Like when he put him on the field, he was really good. I don't know why they didn't play him more, frankly. Well, that'll be fixed in Pittsburgh. Williams, he may end up playing safety before all said and done. They seem to be trying to figure out what to do with him. Like I said, I didn't love the Kennard pick. Watson's been a good solid selection. Pacheco is, for value, is the best pick of them all. And then Johnson has played some in certain like dime and special team situations. But at pick 259, he's been basically, by making the team, it's been a win.
Yep. And again, as I said, I mean, I was in Mr. Veach's head for that draft.
Easy.
It was crazy, right? I mean, and they just kept coming. And when I got Pacheco in that 7th round, I just went, oh my Lord. Because you and I both were huge Isaiah Pacheco fans.
I was a huge Pacheco guy. Once again, another guy I would have loved to have in Pittsburgh. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that draft was just a very fun one for me as far as seeing what the Chiefs ended up doing it. And, of course, we all know what they have become. Yeah. Well, Randall, I've got some bad news for you. You get the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, Las Vegas Raiders. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Yeah. So they didn't have a 1st or a 2nd round for the Las Vegas Raiders. So they went with, in their 3rd round, offensive guard Dylan Parham from Memphis. Starting guard, he's a good guard. So that was a decently good pick in the 3rd round. Then they went in their first 4th round pick was Zamir White, the running back from Georgia. Good contributor as a backup as well, but a backup from the 4th round. And then with their 2nd, 4th round, they went with Neil Farrell Jr. from LSU, the defensive tackle. He bounced around and got released. Did not do much for the Las Vegas Raiders personally. And then they went with the back-to-back defensive tackles, one in the 5th round with Matthew Butler from Tennessee. He's a depth tight end, still contributing from the Raiders, I do believe. And then they went in the 7th round, offensive tackle Thayer Munford from Ohio State, a backup tight end, so a contributor in the depth chart, but stayed in the depth chart. And then running back Britton Brown from UCLA in the 7th round. I do not believe I believe he's out of the league and was out of the league within the rookie year. So they had 5, 6 picks. Didn't do so great. I gave them a D+.
Well, I didn't even give them the D+. I just gave them a straight D.
Yeah, fair.
I went to the D.
There wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah, there really wasn't. What did you give them, Bill?
C-. So that could easily be a D+. They didn't do a lot with what they had. Now, admittedly, they didn't have obviously early picks to work with. Palm was a good selection. White was a good selection. Farrell, I don't hate what they got out of Farrell, but he's with the Dolphins now, I believe.
Yep.
And then to double up, they probably should have taken Butler with the earlier pick and taken somebody completely different with we pick 175. And yeah, I didn't see. Mumford at least is on the team. Britton Brown was a head scratcher for me. I think he's in the UFL, but I saw some flashes from him at Duke before he transferred to UCLA. At UCLA, he gets outplayed by Zach Charbonnet. So when a guy is unable to hold the running back job in college, it definitely raises some questions for me about what he's going to do in the NFL. I know it's pick 250. I can't quibble too much with it, but once again, I still feel like they could have done slightly better, even at pick 250. There were, guys that might have been able to at least make the team. Especially that team. I mean, no offense, they weren't exactly murderers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, they they weren't very good, right? So anyhow, let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Round 1, they got Zion Johnson, the guard from Boston College. Then they didn't have a pick until round 3. J.T. Woods, the safety from Baylor. Round 4, they took up Isaiah Spiller, the running back from Texas A&M. Round 5, they took Otito Ogbonia, the DT from UCLA. Why does UCLA have so many good DTs? I don't get this. Jamari Sawyer, the OT from Georgia, was their pick in round 6. Then they also took Jasir Taylor, the cornerback from Wake Forest, in round 6. And they finished off their draft with Deion Leonard, the cornerback from Ole Miss, and then Xander Horvath, the fullback from Purdue. This is another C- draft for me. Outside of Zion Johnson, I'm not really a huge fan of what the Chargers ended up with in this draft.
Yeah, the
So go ahead,
JT
Bill.
Woods.
D+. I love Zion Johnson. I was a big Zion Johnson guy.
Yep.
I think he's my number 25 overall prospect. And he was one of the safest prospects in the draft. JT Woods is a Seahawk. Isaiah Spiller is one of those. One thing is the curse of Texas A&M got him too, right? He was a guy that was seen as like a top prospect, and I don't know what happened to him at Texas A&M, but each year he seemed to be slightly less explosive, slightly less decisive. I don't know. At some point they'll do they'll be a great 30 for 30 about what the heck Texas A&M does to these 5-star recruits that come in and then get spit out on the other end. They get slower and less explosive. I don't know what's happening there.
You could do a 6-hour special on it. Never mind 30 for 30. You could do 6 hours of Texas A&M guys for 85 years. Oh yeah, A&M, we're big, we're great, blah blah. You've never won a thing.
Yeah, it's the rallies. Right?
Oh yeah. That's what it is.
Spiller at one point, prior to his last year at Texas A&M, was my RB2. And by the end of the process, he was like my RB14 or something. I don't know what the heck they do there, but as I said, he's I think a Raider.
I think he is.
Yeah. So funny how that works out. Obaniah, on the team, that's a win. Sawyer on the team, that's a win. Taylor, I think, is still on the team. And Leonard, I think, is in the. Where is he now? Is he still on the team?
I don't think so.
Know if he's still, I don't think so. No,
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I thought he was. Is he back in Canada? Maybe.
I think he is. I think he's playing up here now.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's probably where he should have been the whole time.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly what made them think. Xander Horvath was a player that I really think is interesting. He's also, I believe, in Canada. I don't think teams figured out what to do with him, but he's not a fullback. He's just a really small tight end. But teams decided to make him into a fullback. I don't know, whatever. I guess he's one of those tweeners, and they didn't figure him out. So yeah, I stand by my grade, but it's an interesting, it's a challenging draft to figure out what they were looking for, actually. Like, what were their goals when you look back at the players they took? Like, what were they trying to accomplish?
Outside of Zion Johnson, I had no idea what they were doing the rest of that draft. And we said that on day 3.
You said it
what are the charges on day 3 when you, Bill, Jeff, and I were on, and we're going? I don't know what the Chargers are doing in this draft. I really don't.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Randall, want to do the Rams?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. So I feel like I'm getting a lot of teams that don't have first rounders, but the LA Rams didn't have a first or a second rounder, but they did have a pretty deep round 3 and beyond. In the 3rd round, they went with the guard Logan Bruss from Wisconsin. He was released. He had some injuries that were unfortunate. And then in the 4th round, they went with cornerback Jacoby Durant from South Carolina State. He's a good backup cornerback, good contributor, solid player for the Rams. And then they went Kyron Williams, great pick. Steele in the 5th, contributor consistently. Anytime there's injury, even if he got that front load, he took it on and did it well. So good pick in that 5th. Another good pick, Quentin Lake, the safety out of UCLA in the 6th round. Very good safety. I'm a big fan of him. Big fan when he came out as well. In the 6th round, cornerback Darian Kendrick from Georgia. Let's see. He's a backup cornerback still on the roster. There's that win. In the 7th, then you had 3 7th-rounders. We went with outside linebacker Daniel Hardy from Montana State. I don't believe he's on the team anymore. Safety Russ Yeast from Kansas State.
Nope.
I don't believe he's on the roster anymore. And then AJ Arcuri from Michigan State with their final pick. I believe he's still on their roster as a backup offensive line. So that's actually a pretty good win in that department, still being on the roster for the 3 years later. I gave that draft a C with the findings of Kyron Williams and Quentin Lake that I really enjoyed in those 5th and 6th pick.
Where did Kyron Williams go to school?
I think you're wearing it.
Where did Kyron Williams
Did I not say
go to
that?
school? Where? No.
I think I got excited to talk about him, so I skipped to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's another gentleman from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Which I have the same grade as you did, Randall. And it's all because of the 2 players that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Bottom line. What did you give
Yep.
them, Bill?
Yeah, I too gave him a C+. And this was part of the whole F them picks period, as you might remember. They had moved a lot of their early picks to bring in players via trade, and it worked. I mean, they did get a Super Bowl out of it. I was disappointed that Quentin Lake, once again, did not make it to the Steelers. But Kyron Williams, that's a miss for me. I thought he would end up being a contributor. He became way more than I thought he'd be. I love Jacoby Durant. Huge fan of his. I wasn't blown away by Logan Bruss. I thought he'd be okay,
No.
but nothing special there. Darian Kendrick's a guy I thought got sort of carried away by the Georgia wave. If he's at Georgia State instead of Georgia, he's a prior to undrafted free agent or a 7th-rounder. Yeah, probably not even that. Probably a prior to undrafted free agent. Hardy's an interesting player. He's now, I believe, a Bear, if memory serves correctly. And another second generation guy, right? Russell
Yep.
Yeast is Craig Yeast's son. For those that remember when the Browns came back from oblivion, right, and drafted Tim Couch. A few rounds later, they grabbed his favorite receiver, Craig Yeast, also out of Kentucky, and this is his son. And yep. I think he signed a futures deal with somebody. But yeah, he's not on their team anymore. I think he might have signed a futures deal with somebody, but I can't remember exactly where. No, I take it. Yeah, he did. He signed a futures deal with the Texans. So he's on a futures deal with the Texans. So we'll see if he sticks there. And then our Curry is, a classic, reserve, swing, whatever you want to call it, player on the offensive line. So yeah, I stand by my grade.
Perfect. So you whined and cried about not having 1st-round picks. Well, I'll take the Dolphins. The Dolphins did not have a 1st or 2nd-round pick in this draft. They picked 102nd from in the 3rd round, and they took Channing Tindall, the linebacker from Georgia. Then they put Eric Ikuzanama, the wide receiver from Texas Tech. Cameron Good, the linebacker from California, was in round 7 that picked 224. And then they took Skylar Thompson, the cornerback from Kansas State. I believe where Skylar Thompson now plays, correct, Bill?
I most certainly do. I most certainly do. He's in the Rondale. He's in the mix.
Yeah. This draft got a D- from me. So yeah, they
Hard
had
to
4
hard to
picks,
argue
D
that.
minus.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm there.
I mean, in terms of
Go ahead,
contribution, they didn't get much out of really anybody.
Hmm.
I mean,
no,
Tyndall's on the
no,
team, but he's not exactly killing it. Ezukama is on the team, and I think he may have played in about 4 games or something like that in his NFL. I mean, on offense in about 4
yeah,
games in his NFL career.
yeah.
Goods mostly a reserve / special teamer. Thompson's not on the team anymore. Yeah, it's not a great draft. Even with the small number of picks they have, they should have at least hit on one player.
Right.
Yep. Yep. And what did you give them, Randall?
Oh yeah, D minus. I would say like Skylar Thompson did have to contribute because with Tua and things along those lines. So he got in there, and he wasn't the worst quarterback for a 7th rounder sort of thing. So, but that obviously didn't move up any grade for me. It remained a D minus.
Yeah. And Mr. Bill, why don't you take over the Minnesota Vikings?
Yep. So they come out of the box with Lewis Cine, who is one of those height, weight, speed players. Now an Eagle, because the Eagles love collecting Georgia players. Never showed. They were hoping one day he would be the eventual successor to Hitman Harrison Smith, but doesn't show the mental capacity to play deep middle safety or really even strong safety. Once again, big, strong, fast, but just never played like a guy who was going to be an NFL starter, at least. Then we have Booth Jr., Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson on the team. Has played some, solid contributor, not special, but solid contributor. And, of course, Edward Ingram's now a Texan. Asamoah is still on the team and actually has looked decent when he's been asked to go out there and play. Caleb Evans is a member of the Carolina Panthers. Otomuo is a Steeler. Very familiar with him. Ty Chandler is actually really quick, right? He's had some breakout games. Now, whether or not they ever decide to let him, have a shot to be the guy, I guess is not quite yet. They, bringing Aaron Jones was said to him, wait your turn, but Chandler looked good when he had his few chances to actually be the man. But Aaron Lowe is with New England. Jalen Naylor from Michigan State is still there and has actually had 1 or 2 good games. And they finished off with Nick Muse, who is now an Eagle as well because, SEC player. Muse is one of those guys who was, once again, a really good tester, former William & Mary standout, but never quite put it together, once again, with sort of the mental side and some of the physical stuff, too, in terms of, holding the point or blocking. And even in special teams at times, he didn't play as big or as fast as he measured or he ran. But once again, he's going to get his chance now with Philadelphia, where they, have a pretty decent track record of reclaiming guys. So we'll see what happens there, maybe as a wide receiver 3.
And what grade did you give them?
Oh, right, good point. I probably should say that, shouldn't I? I'll give it a C+.
I went C minus. What did you give them, Randall?
I went with a C minus. I did like the
Yeah.
pick in Jalen Naylor, but a lot of people are on different teams, so that's a huge knock.
Yep.
All right. So Randall, I'm sorry, but you have to take the divisional opponent of the Bills.
All right.
You get to talk about Mr. Belichick's weird draft.
Right. Yep. A couple reaches, of course. They had a 1st-round pick, and they reached for Cole Strange from Chattanooga. Still a guard there, so contributing there. But I do believe today they did not pick up his 5th-year option, so that's in jeopardy. I believe, if I'm not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Cole Strange was the draft pick that was a reach where Sean McVay was on a podcast and then started talking about how he had a 3rd-round grade on him and started laughing. That kind of got comedy throughout that draft. And then in the 2nd round, they went with the fast Tyquan Thornton. The combine. The combine came in. I think he ran a 4.29, and then everybody started learning his name. And the Patriots went for that speed guy and went for him. Unfortunately, he did not work out. Their probably best pick of this draft was Marcus Jones from Houston in the 3rd round. Great corner, still contributing, doing very well. Arizona, they had 3 4th-round picks. One with Jack Jones, cornerback from Arizona State. He got released, I believe, last year, and I think he's bouncing around. I'm not sure if he ended on a team yet. And then in the 4th round, they went with Pierre Strong Jr. from South Dakota State. Stronger running back, still in a backup role. Had some good flashes and still contributed to the New England Patriots run game. And then with the last 4th round, they went Bailey Zappi with Western Kentucky, which he obviously got his shot to go for the starting role. Did not quite work out. He was that 4th round grade for a reason, but he is a journeyman backup quarterback. And then the 6th round, they double dipped in the running back department, went with Kevin Harris from South Carolina. He did not work out. I'm not sure if he's on a team. I just saw that I believe he was released and he's not on the New England Patriots anymore. As well as defensive tackle Sam Roberts from North Missouri State in the 6th round. He was released before the 2024 season. LSU in the last 6th pick was offensive guard Chasen Hines. He was on IR, battled a lot of injuries, and he was unfortunately released before the 2023 season. And then in their last pick, Andrew Stuber from the offensive guard from Michigan. He missed his rookie season on IR and then went to the practice squad to get his injury through and get to 100%, but then he started bouncing around to different teams. I gave the New England Patriots a C based on Marcus Jones was a really good pick. Cole Strange, the 5th-year option kind of changed it a little bit for me. I thought they might have picked it up, but they did not pick up the 5th-year option, so that is telling. And then Tyquan Thornton, unfortunately, did not work out.
Mr. Bill, what did you give Mr. Belichick's draft?
Yeah. I'm going to give it a C-. I was a big Cole Strange fan, and I even in the late 2nd, I wouldn't have once again, Southern Conference, top lineman 2 years in a row. But, yeah, even I was shocked by him going where he went. Kevin Harris is on a practice squad, so he's technically speaking on the team. But, obviously didn't. When you don't get more production, especially on a team that's not that good, right? They out of your draft, that's how you end up being worse the next year and how you end up losing your job if you're a head coach. So it is not surprising that draft was part of the sort of downward spiral that led the Patriots to eventually being, one of the worst rosters in the league.
Yep. And I gave them the same grade as you did, Bill. So let's go to who that going to beat them Saints. And in round 1, pick 11, they took Chris Olave, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Then they went with Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. That was a bit of a strange pick, to say the least. We'll see what happens with Trevor. Alontae Taylor, the cornerback from Tennessee, was their 49th pick in the 2nd round. Then they didn't pick again until the 5th round. DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker from Appalachian State. And Jordan Jackson, the defensive tackle from Air Force, was their final pick in round 6. This ended up being a C grade for me. They got Olave. Penning has just been a nightmare. And that really took this draft down for me. Randall, what did you give the Saints?
I gave him a B- because Chris Olave, obviously, he was dealing with concussions, but if he did not have those concussions, it was the right pick. He's great vertical threat wide receiver. And I really did like Alontae Taylor coming out, and he did show out. I think that was a good 2nd pick. So I gave him a B- with the minimal amount of picks they have. Trevor Penning was a nightmare, so that was bad, but B- for me.
Okay, and what did you give him, Bill?
C+ for me. It was close. If Penning had even just been okay, that would have been a B-. Taylor's been, he probably about what you would expect where he was picked. At pick 49, still a top 50 player. So I'm not going to applaud too much for him at least being a solid contributor and a guy who gets on the field and handles his business. And, DeMarco Jackson obviously dealt with injuries, but never really did anything. And, that was a guy that, they picked reasonably. I mean, for their number of picks, obviously. Now, they only didn't have a lot of picks, but, pick 161 is not super early, but you should get something out of that pick. Never really did. And Jordan Jackson, once again, is with Denver, right? And he may still become something. They forfeited their next pick, and that was it for them. So, they needed to – when you have a small number of picks, you got to hit on – they clearly really hit on Olave. Taylor's decent, and that was really it, what they got in terms of production. So I can't give them anything better than that.
All right. Well, Mr. Randall.
All right.
Why don't you give us the New York Giants?
You got it. All right. So they had 2 firsts, and the first one they went with Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon, the defensive end. Obviously starting and contributing, but have not panned out to what the liking of everybody hyping up Kayvon Thibodeau. I know there was some discrepancy on him as a prospect, but he was a wrecker in Oregon, but he did not kind of do what we expected him to do. And then I believe what Greg was referring to earlier in the episode was offensive tackle Evan Neal from Alabama, that the Giants ended up taking him. Had some injuries, so it's been a rough go, but he was a great prospect coming out. And then in the second, they went with wide receiver Wendell Robinson from Kentucky. I was a big fan of Wendell. I still kind of am in the Giants system because he's such a short yard merchant, and he's that reliable. He gets like 9 catches for 40 yards. Kind of insane when he ends up doing that. But he's still on the team contributing. And then in the third round, they went with offensive guard Joshua Ezeudu from North Carolina. He contributes a little bit. He's a versatile in the guard tackle. But that's about it for him. And then in the second, third round pick, went with Cordell Flott from LSU, the cornerback, backup cornerback contributor. So you have that for him in that third round. And then they went with their tight end, Daniel Bellinger, who is still on the roster from San Diego State. Serviceable backup tight end. He had a couple good games where he did go have high yardage. There was that, they got the Raiders tight end where I thought Daniel Bellinger was going to go into that starting role, but then they ended up pulling him in a trade. He ended up retiring. That was kind of a mess, and now they're working in that tight end department. With the other fourth round, they went with safety Dan Belton from Iowa. Rotating safety, still on the New York Giants. They had 3 fifth-rounders. Went with insider linebacker Micah McFadden from Indiana. Solid fifth-rounder linebacker. Started all 2024. Good player. Went with the second fifth was Arizona State, DJ Davidson, the defensive tackle. Also still on the roster, backup defensive tackle. And then with their final fifth-rounder, they went with offensive guard Marcus McKeithen from North Carolina. He got released. He is not on the team, as well as the last 6th-round pick and insider linebacker Darian Beavers from Cincinnati, and I believe he was released as well. Yep. They did have some good pieces. Kayvon Thibodeau is, the statistics and contributing is not as what we saw, and the injuries on Evan Neal is a little rough, so I gave them a C+.
Mr. Bill, what did you give the Giants class?
I will agree, C+. They got off to – Thibodeau, I think, still has a chance to become if not a star, then a well above the average line, well above the median line, pass rusher. Wandale Robinson is another one of those classic sort of quick, small-bodied but very quick little slot receivers. Ezeudu is a solid football player and contributor. I thought Flott was a bit of a reach, but
yep.
He and his cousin Velus Jones are 2 guys that I felt like people just sort of looked at the name brand, right, where they played and said, well, these guys got to be at least pretty good, right? They played at Tennessee or they played at LSU. But one of my favorite picks value-wise was Daniel Bellinger. I am a big Bellinger guy. I think if they would put him out there as their starting tight end, he would really produce. they seem to, whatever reason, keep sort of jerking him in and out and not letting him just get settled in. Belton is one of those limited thumpers who would have been a much better player 40 years ago. He can cover a little bit, but he's really better coming downhill. McFadden was another really good value pick. Davidson, as was pointed out, McKeithen and Beavers haven't done much of anything, and of course, in many cases, aren't even on the team anymore. But yeah, I agree. C+.
Yeah, and C+ is exactly what I did with them as well. Go ahead and give us the Jets picks, Mr. Bill.
Excellent. Yes. So the New Jersey Jets, as you've correctly pointed out, get off to a great start, actually. Sauce Gardner, right? Top 5 corner in the NFL at number 4. Garrett Wilson, maybe not top 5 or top 10, or maybe not even top 20, but maybe definitely top 30 wide receiver in the NFL. Jermaine Johnson II was an older prospect, but has started to really produce a little bit and round into form. He may never be a star, but he'll be a solid contributor for years to come. Breece Hall is a top 12 running back. Once again, the classic when healthy. Jeremy Ruckert, I mean, there's a reason that fans, were clamoring for a tight end in this draft. Max Mitchell is on the team, hasn't exactly been killing it, but definitely still on the team. Michael Clements there. So what I will say is everybody made the team, which, is something. Of course, the team wasn't great, but everybody made the team. Gardner, of course, is a star. I think Wilson is on the cusp of becoming a star. Johnson will be a solid contributor for years to come. Hall is on the cusp of becoming a star if he can stay healthy. Ruckert, meh. Max Mitchell is going to be in the swing tackle sort of mix. And Clemens is another rotational player. I'm going to give it a solid B.
All right. What did you give this class, Randall?
I gave them a B+ with their picks. I mean, I was leaning towards the A, but I dropped it a little bit because they did have so many picks in the high rounds. So right. Good job picking correctly, but you had the capital.
Right.
Yeah. And I gave this class a B. All right. Now see, here I am. I'm going to talk about the she-girls, whatever you want to call these guys, the Kelly Green clowns. I don't care what we call them. The Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, that's it. Round 1, I took Jordan Davis, the DT for Georgia. Then in round 2, they took Mr. Kelsey's replacement in Cam Jurgens, the center from Nebraska. Then they went with Nakobe Dean in the round 3. And then they didn't pick again until round 6. And they took Kyron Johnson, the linebacker from Kansas. And then in round 6, they finished off with Grant Calcaterra, the tight end from SMU. Obviously, this draft was basically front-end loaded. Jordan Davis is a beast of a man and all that fun sort of stuff. Cam Jurgens, like I said, he took over the center position after Jason Kelsey retired. Nakobe Dean was a bit of a surprise because of his size and all that other jazz. Kyron Johnson and Grant Calcaterra, well, they're just basically who they are. I gave this class a B. So go ahead and tell me what you got, Bill.
I'm going to go B+. Johnson was a miss, right? Kyron Johnson, I think, is a Carolina Panther. But every other player that they picked, and this is a good football team, right? Obviously. So when you pick one, stud, then a solid starter, then a contributor, then a miss, then a contributor. They only had 5 picks. 4 of them are contributing, and one of them's a stud. And you're picking, obviously, actually one was picked 13, but due to the move up. But the other picks are, middle or late. Like Jurgens was also a middle of the round guy, but little past middle, I guess, of the round. But because 48, I guess, is the actual middle. But then you're picking at 51, 83, 181, 198. Calcaterra is contributing. He's picked number 198 on a good football team. So they did, I would say, good work considering how good a roster they already had.
Yeah. What did you give them, Randall?
Game of B. I was with you on that one, Greg.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Bill, it's now time to discuss the one quarterback taken in round one, and the rest of the Steelers draft. Go ahead, Bill.
So this was the year that everyone was supposed to get a memo saying there are no first-round quarterbacks in this draft class. But the Steelers' fax machine was broken, as it turns out. So they didn't get the memo. They did not understand there were no first-round quarterbacks in the class. And they took one at pick 20. And Kenny Pickett's still in the league, ironically, with the team we just discussed, the Eagles. I don't think he'll ever be a long-term starter. That's a big old miss. When your first pick is a big old miss, that's not great. They hit with their second pick, pick 52, George Pickens, who has previously been their wide receiver 1. He's probably going to be wide receiver 2 or 1B, or however you want to put it. DeMarvin Leal was another one that got bitten by the Texas A&M curse. Looked a little bit worse each year that he played there at Texas A&M, but he's been a good contributor. Calvin Austin never quite became a wide receiver 2. Has been more like a 3-4, but has been he's contributed in special teams and even had a couple of good games on offense. Connor Hayward, of course, the younger brother of Cameron Hayward, that fullback H-back move tight end, has helped as a blocker and occasionally has caught the football. Mark Robinson, formerly of Presbyterian, formerly of East Missouri State, eventually Ole Miss, has played both defense and some special teams and has not looked terrible. We drafted quarterback Chris Oladokin, who has found a home with the Chiefs, not so much one with the Steelers. So I'll call that a miss, though he's a pretty decent football player. That's, we hit with really, so it's a sandwich, right? It's a failure sandwich. Our first and last picks, quarterbacks. We should stop drafting quarterbacks, I guess. But our first and last picks, quarterbacks, not on the team. But Pickens, Leal, Austin, Hayward, and Robinson are all contributing to the Steelers. And, of course, Pickens, is a near star, a top 24 wide receiver in the NFL.
So what did you give them for a grade?
That's the hard part, right? When you miss so badly with your first pick, even if you really do well with the other picks, it's hard to give more than I'm going to say a C.
And that's exactly where I have them as well. As we said on Draft Central 3 years ago, I'm sorry, but yes, he played at Pitt, but everybody forgot that the guy that was getting all those catches from him was Mr. Addison, and he was a very, very good receiver because those balls that were coming out of Kenny Pickett's hands were not great balls either. So I gave them a C. Go ahead and tell us what you got for them, Randall.
C, all down the line.
Perfect. Let's go ahead, Randall, and tell us what the San Francisco 49ers did in that draft.
All right. San Francisco 49ers. They did not have a first-round pick, so they went in the second round with outside linebacker Drake Jackson from USC. Definitely a lot of injuries, unfortunately, that plagued him. I believe he tore his patella tendon midway through 2023, and he missed all of 2024. So kind of to be determined, unfortunately, with Drake Jackson. In the third, they went with the running back Tyrion Davis-Price from LSU. He contributed a little bit in his rookie season, I believe, but not much past that. In the third round, they went with wide receiver Danny Gray from SMU. Did not end up doing so well as well in the NFL. Moving on to the fourth round, an offensive tackle Spencer Burford from UTSA. Definitely some up and down, some injuries. He broke his hand, but was a serviceable when he came out in that fourth round. In the 5th round, we have quarterback Samuel Womack from Toledo. He was released before the 2024 season, so he's not in the 49ers anymore. And also, if we go down, they had 3 6-rounders, and Nick Zakelj from Fordham. He was also released, I believe. And then defensive tackle Kalia Davis from UCF. I believe he's on their practice squad. And then they went with their final 6th-round quarterback Tariq Castro Fields from Penn State. He was also released. And then they saved their draft in the 7th round with the quarterback Brock Purdy from Iowa State. They found Brock Purdy as a stud in the 7th, and he obviously, we all know, went to go be the starter and take him to a Super Bowl. So they dodged that one with Brock Purdy.
So what grade did you give the Niners?
I gave them a C strictly because honestly they didn't have a lot of contributors. But finding a 7th-round quarterback in Brock Purdy and making him into the Super Bowl is a huge upgrade in there. So I went with a C.
And what was I telling everybody when Mr. Irrelevant was picked during Draft Central, Bill?
Right. Yep.
Yep.
You don't watch his senior year tape. You watch his junior year when he was much, much better. Right. And yes, the Niners did the same thing, and that's why they end up with a C grade for me as well.
Yep. And it's funny, speaking of Howie Roseman, so Tyrion Davis-Price is on the Eagles. Danny Gray, I think, might be on the Eagles practice squad. And Samuel Womack actually has played some for the Eagles. So at least 3 of the players that the 49ers drafted this year either made the active roster or made the practice squad for the Eagles. But yeah, I agree. Also, that's a C, saved obviously by Brock Purdy becoming Brock Purdy. But the fact that Tariq Castro Fields, Womack's a Colt. Womack's with the Colts.
Well,
it's
Colts,
Castro Fields, Price, and Gray are all Eagles. But yeah, Drake Jackson at least is still hanging around on the roster, but a bunch of their players they drafted. The best value pick, not named Brock Purdy, is Spencer Burford.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, indeed. So now I'll do the Seattle Seahawks here. Round 1, they picked up Charles Cross, the tackle from Mississippi State. Then they took one of my favorite edge players. I know we had some disagreements about this on Draft Central, but Boye Mafe, the edge from Minnesota, he's really improved, as I said he would. He was, yes, a bit of a project, but again, he was a very good pick for the Seattle Seahawks. And then, of course, the very next pick, they took Kenneth Walker III, who I still maintain won the Heisman Award that year. Abraham Lucas, the offensive tackle from Washington State, was their round 3 pick 72. Kobe Bryant, the cornerback from Cincinnati, was their 4th-round pick. In the 5th round, they took Tariq Woolen, the cornerback from UTSA. Then they took Tyreek Smith, the edge player from Ohio, in the 5th round as well. Then in round 7, Bo Melton, the wide receiver from Rutgers, and then Derek A. Young, the wide receiver from Lenoir-Rhyne. I gave the Seahawks a B on this draft class. So go ahead and tell me what you gave him, Randall.
I gave him a B plus. I also like Boye Mafe as well, and Charles Cross was good. Kenneth Walker is a dog. I know he's splitting shares with Charbonnet, but he's so good at that. And Tariq Woolen was a good grab. I think they just had a good all-around draft, and I went with a B plus.
Okay, and what did you give him, Bill?
I'm going to agree with the B plus that was just given. Bo Melton, of course, is a Packer, but outside of, and that's not really even a miss. I mean, he's looked pretty good. And then, all the players on the team not named Bo Melton have made the roster and contributed to some shape, form, or fashion. Cross is a starting offensive lineman. Mafe is coming on. Walker is a top 12 or 13 running back in the NFL. Lucas has had flashes. He hasn't, always been great. Woolen has been one of the great steals of the draft at pick 153. Tyreek Smith is I thought they probably could have gone somewhere else with that pick, but he's been a contributor, not a great contributor. Like I said, Melton is actually threatening to take someone's job with the Packers. And then Derek the Freak Young has really been a special teams asset for them, though he hasn't done a lot on offense.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see here now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they took in the second round Logan Hall from the Houston Cougars. Then they took Luke Gadecki, the guard from Central Michigan, in round 2. Round 3, Rashad White, the running back from Arizona State. Cade Otton, the tight end from Washington, was their 4th-round pick. And then they also took Jake Carmada in the 4th round, the punter from Georgia. Zion McCullum, the cornerback from Sam Houston State, was their 5th-round pick. Cole Cleft, the tight end from Minnesota, was their 6th-round pick. And then Andre Anthony, edge from LSU, was their 7th-round pick. This Buccaneers draft, they get a B- from me. So go ahead and tell me what you gave them there, Bill.
I would say I'll go just slightly higher than you, a solid B. Logan Hall's a contributor. Gadecki has been an above-average starter. White is now in sort of a timeshare at running back, but when he was the guy, he was productive. Otton, I think, is one of the better young tight ends in the league. Camarda is now a Bill, so that's a bit of a miss. McCollum has been a solid starter at times once they moved on from Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting. And while he's had some struggles, the fact that he has at least, he managed to at times start with a guy you picked at 157. Kept as a 3rd tight end, as sort of a blocking guy. Anthony, I think, is maybe out of the league.
He is.
Yeah, so I figured. So, that's their last pick at 248. But the only non-contributor, right? Camarda, right, is no longer. So 2 non-contributors. Everyone else has contributed, and 4 of them are starters, right? So if you hit with 4 starters back to back to back to back, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go slightly higher than you because you got 4 starters back to back to back to back.
All right. And what did you give them, Randall?
That was like the exact same thought process I had for my grade B. So I was pretty much right on exactly what Bill Carroll said. So I'm not going to repeat much, but top 4, good contributors. That's why I gave him a B.
Perfect. Go ahead, Bill, and give us the Tennessee Titans.
So once again, you can tell which teams care about production metrics and which teams don't. Clearly, at least at the time, the Titans were not a production metrics team. They didn't care if you produced or not. They went with Treylon Burks. Now, obviously, off the passing and the offense itself at Arkansas was not always conducive to putting up big numbers, but you could see that Burks was a guy who sort of won with size and strength, and he's starting to show something. I'll say this much: he's starting to show something. But you did get a starter. McCreary has had his good and bad days as a corner with them, but he's a starter. Now, a miss, I would call Nicholas Petit-Frere. He has not been what they were hoping, and I believe he's out of football at the moment. So that when you pick a guy in the top, 70 picks, and he's out of the league in a couple of years, that's not great. Malik Willis is probably going to be a career backup. He's played some, and he's in Green Bay. I won't say that was a reach because it's pick 86. He has played a little bit, not mostly with you. Played a little bit with you, but now is a backup with the Packers. Not a terrible pick, not a great pick. Then Hassan Haskins. Stop me if you've heard this before. Another no-nonsense power runner from Michigan, the school up north. And he's managed to contribute. Of course, when Jim Harbaugh came to the NFL, he found his way to Los Angeles, so not a shock there. And then Chigoziem Okonkwo has become sort of a poor man's Vernon Davis, an undersized but really explosive, powerful tight end who's starting to round into form. And they got him at pick 143. That's not too shabby. A lot of people started to get excited about Kyle Phillips. They, sort of quick, maybe slightly undersized, maybe undersized, don't word, but slightly below average size wide receiver. And, he's now a Raider. He's now going to be paired up with his sort of spiritual godfather in Hunter Renfrow, and maybe that'll help to unlock him. Theo Johnson's another player where, once again, it showed to me they don't care about production metrics. He's now a Viking. Chance Campbell, linebacker from Ole Miss, is at least still on the team. So that's one. Conkle was a great pick. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5 contributors. Really good value pick in Okonkwo. So they have only one really good value pick and 5 contributors. A couple guys. I'm going to give it a C+.
And that's the grade I also gave the Titans, was a C+. Of course, being a former Arkansan, seeing Traylon Burke suffer the way that he has in Tennessee has been painful. Go ahead and tell us what your grade was, Randall.
Okay, so I gave them a D+ because I included that they traded A.J. Brown and then drafted Treylon Burks. So I put that in. So they lost out. They lost out on A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
They tried to substitute A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks, and that did not work out. So that was a big, big mistake.
I mean, it worked out for Philadelphia, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans right now.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dropped him a full letter.
All right.
Gotcha.
All right. This is the last team. The
Yes.
Washington Commanders, who, of course, in round 1 took Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver from Penn State, who now plays for the Eagles. Fedarian Mathis, the DT from Alabama, was their second-round pick. Their third-round pick, Brian Robinson Jr., the running back from Alabama, who has been a pretty good contributor for them. Percy Butler, a safety from Louisiana. Then in round 5, they took Sam Howell, who I loved at North Carolina, but he just hasn't worked out, obviously. Cole Turner, the tight end from Nevada, was a fifth-round pick. Then in round 7, they took Chris Paul, the Tulsa offensive lineman, who was a buddy of Tyler Smith's. And then they took Christian Holmes, cornerback from Oklahoma State. For me, this draft got a C. Go ahead and tell me what you gave them, Bill.
I'm going to agree. They got off to a decent start, right? And that's often as for some teams, you can tell that they really now Dotson, let me rephrase that, got off to a potentially decent start. Dotson had some good games, but never could seem to string together a good season in his time with Washington. Mathis is a really good, interior player. Robinson was a really good value pick, and he's at times been their the focus of the offense, in fact, at one point, but he's still a really solid contributor. Butler's a decent contributor. I think Sam Howell may still become something, but I'll have to do it someplace else. Cole Turner is a solid rotational backup tight end. Paul is a solid contributor as an offensive lineman who has helped them to solidify their run game. And Holmes, I think, was picked up by the Giants and then released. So, that's a miss there. So a couple of, misses. Chance Campbell is a contributor, but John Dotson was a contributor and then never quite became what they hoped he'd become. I still think he's going to be a solid wide receiver 3 and, wherever it is he goes from here on out, but he's, has a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles. I really like Brian Robinson, and I haven't given up on Percy Butler. I don't think he'll ever be a star, but I think he's going to be a solid NFL starter for years to come. But yeah, I'm going to give this. I'll give it a C minus.
Okay. And Randall?
I went down. I went straight at C as well with Greg. I like Brian Robinson Jr. a lot. I like what he's doing in Washington. Yeah, Jahan Dotson didn't work out. I think his best play would be in the playoffs last year for the Eagles, so that is unfortunate for the Commanders. But I also loved Sam Howell as well. I was hoping he would do things in the NFL, and I agree he still could. So yeah, flat C.
Boom. So we got a lot of C grades in this draft class, which tells you there are not a huge amount of gold jackets about to be handed out from this group. There really isn't. It was a good draft, though. I mean, teams filled spots on their rosters, and that's what the draft is for. And again, that's basically what happened with the 2022 NFL draft, folks. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel. And Mr. Bill, I'll see you Saturday night on the final word.
I will see you Saturday night on the final word.
You need to get me their email addresses and all that good sort of stuff. And
I will do that.
Yes.
I'll toss that in the DM.
Pleasure as always.
As always.
Yeah. I appreciate you all.
All right. So everybody take care and enjoy your evenings, and we'll see you Saturday night.
Yes. See you Saturday night, my friend.